Armstrong, I kept my end of the deal. Now it's your turn. Bring me the subject. I will, but before that you have to promise me you won't kill him. Kill him? Ha ha ha, no, quite the opposite. My compound V is going to turn him into Superman. Leon snapped awake from a nightmare, his skull pounding like it was about to split open. Where the hell am I? He looked around. He was curled up inside a brick chamber that looked like an industrial furnace. In front of him stood a titanium alloy door, thick as a bank vault and built like someone expected a war to break out. Was this a prank? Some hidden camera garbage? A wave of broken memories slammed into him. Leon let out a choked groan and collapsed onto his hands and knees. He remembered leaving the law firm after work. He remembered driving home. Then a green portal had ripped open in the middle of the overpass. After that, a lab, restraints, scalpels, needles. Again and again, they cut him open. Again and again, they injected him with something. They roasted him inside this furnace, froze him in vats of liquid nitrogen, and put him through torture that made hell sound generous. He had cursed them, then screamed at them, then begged. Then gone quiet. At some point, he had stopped feeling like a person and become something hollow, soaked through with pain. Calm down, he muttered, forcing air into his lungs. It was just a nightmare, that's all. A voice crackled through the speakers outside. Preparing high-temperature experiment number 936. Target temperature 572 degrees Fahrenheit. Countdown 15 seconds. 1, 2. Leon froze. The room began to heat up. The last piece of denial inside him cracked apart. He had been kidnapped, not by criminals. Not by some ransom crew. By lunatics from whatever world sat on the other side of that portal. They had turned him into a lab rat and spent 935 days tearing him apart. What do you want from me? Leon slammed his fist into the metal door. The impact punched a dent into it. What the hell do you want? The heat wouldn't kill him, it wouldn't even leave a rash on his skin, but he felt every second of it. It crawled over him like a million fire ants chewing through his flesh. And it usually lasted for hours. Outside the door, someone laughed. Marty, you think he burns this time? Leon went still. The voice was casual, bored, even doubt it, another man said. Last test cooked him for 7 hours and he didn't even blister. This one's only 30 degrees hotter. I say he burns, wanna bet? Sure, $50, I'm in. Metal scraped outside, equipment shifted. The temperature inside the chamber suddenly stopped rising. What are you doing, Frank? Reinstalling the thermal system. The idiot who put this together wired half the damn thing wrong. There, bump it another 120 degrees. You sneaky old bastard. The heat started climbing again, 100 degrees, 200, 300. Leon's roar turned into a strangled cry. His tears boiled away the moment they reached his eyes. His arms gave out. He curled up on the floor, shaking, unable to keep hitting the door. 2 hours later, the furnace chamber peaked at nearly 700 degrees Celsius. Jesus, one of the researchers muttered. That's the machine's limit, still can't leave a mark on him. Stop whining, pay up. Leon drifted in and out of consciousness. Then the dream came again, but this one was different. He dreamed he had become a burning star. Hydrogen atoms slammed together inside him. Streams of charged particles rushed through him like blood. Under that impossible heat, something frozen deep inside him finally began to move. The atoms that made up his body, his thoughts, his entire existence began to change under a power with no end. Then he understood. Temperature was only matter shaking. Energy was just a lie living things told themselves. Everything was a dream. His dream. Leon's eyes snapped open. He rose to his feet, face twisted with something too cold to be called anger. The flames coating his skin died in an instant. The chamber temperature crashed, frost spreading across the walls. Then it surged again. Leon absorbed the thermal radiation pouring through the room and his eyes began to glow red. Outside, someone cursed. That's not right. What? The temperature should have capped already. Why is it still rising? Ding. What was that? Check the camera. Static hissed. The monitor showed only a blinding red glare. No one could see what was happening inside the furnace. No one noticed the titanium alloy door behind them melting into a shining pool of metal. Then 2 beams of heat punched through it. Several researchers were sliced apart on the spot, their bodies reduced to charred pieces before they hit the floor. Sound the alarm. The sirens screamed. Too late. The titanium door collapsed with a thunderous crash. Leon floated out of the furnace chamber, suspended in midair. His eyes burned with a violent red light and blue-purple energy flickered across his skin. Which one of you is Frank? No one answered. The researchers, dressed in casual clothes under white lab coats, shoved each other aside and ran for the emergency exit. Leon closed his eyes. Beyond heat radiation, he could feel the magnetic fields around him. He could feel the current moving through the electronic locks. Rage did the rest. He twisted the magnetic field around the escape doors. A reverse surge blasted through the circuitry, frying every semiconductor inside. Before the researchers could reach safety, one metal door after another slammed shut, sealing away their last hope. Leon opened his eyes again and switched back to normal sight. He found him fast, tall, thin, name tag on his chest, Frank. Leon flew over and stopped inches from his face. "I heard you," Leon said softly. "While I was screaming in that furnace, you turned up the heat and bet money on whether I'd burn." Frank swallowed. "I was just doing my job." Leon smiled. It was the kind of smile that made the room feel colder. He pointed at the furnace chamber. "Get in." Frank didn't move. Fear locked his body in place. That moment was all another researcher needed. The man lunged for a hidden compartment under a desk and yanked out an automatic rifle. He swung it toward Leon and reached for the trigger. AAAH, the rifle melted into liquid metal before he could fire. Molten steel poured over his hands. He screamed once and passed out. Leon didn't even turn around. "Get in the furnace," he said, "or everyone goes in with you." The room changed. Every pair of eyes snapped to Frank, cold, urgent, begging him to move. Frank's shoulders sagged. He lowered his head and stumbled toward the furnace like a man walking to his own grave. A researcher with MARTY on his name tag stepped forward. "Please, we're just workers. We only followed orders. You don't have to do this." Leon's heat vision punched straight through his groin. Marty shrieked and dropped to the floor, clutching the blackened wound between his legs. "You run human experiments and now you want to play hero." Leon stepped forward and planted his foot on Marty's head. Then he pressed down. Slowly, Marty felt the first crack in his skull. Then the second. Leon kept adding pressure, letting him feel every inch of it. 5 minutes later, Marty's head burst under his boot. Leon swept the gore from his foot with a thin flash of heat vision, then turned back to the furnace chamber. He lifted the 20-ton alloy door and sealed it shut again. Inside, Frank stared at him through the small window. "I'm sorry," Frank said. Leon smiled back. "Sorry for what? You were just doing your job." He sealed the chamber completely. His face went flat. The heat inside the furnace spiked past 1,000 degrees in seconds. 1 minute later, Leon opened the door. Nothing remained inside, not even ash. "Ha!" He turned toward the other researchers huddled in the corner. "Ha ha ha." Leon walked toward them, smiling in the dark. Leon wiped bits of flesh from his face and took a long breath. For the first time in a long time, the pressure in his chest eased. A little. Marty had been right about one thing. They were small fry. The person who had kidnapped him and strapped him to that table was somewhere else. Leon would find him, and when he did, that person would feel every second of pain Leon had survived, every cut, every burn, every needle, every scream. "Interesting," a familiar voice said through the speakers. "I was starting to think you'd never awaken, Subject Zero." Leon went still. He knew that voice. The memory was blurry, but it was there. The first time they strapped him to the operating table, the man holding the tools had spoken with that exact voice. "Keep talking," Leon growled. "Say as much as you want. When I find you and put you through what you did to me, we'll see how many words you've got left. Big talk, but you should save your strength." "While you were busy killing my staff, you inhaled a large dose of biological gas." The voice chuckled. "That gas was designed specifically for subjects like you. Even you can't ignore it." The words had barely left the speaker before Leon dropped to one knee. The room tilted. His heat vision flickered. His electromagnetic sense collapsed and snapped back in jagged bursts, overloading his brain. He gagged, one hand braced against the floor. He still didn't know how to use his powers properly. He had no idea how to purge the toxin from his body. Darkness crept in at the edges of his vision. Leon clenched his teeth. Fine. If he couldn't get rid of the poison, then he'd make sure they couldn't drag him back to the table. Scorching air blasted out from his body. Thermal radiation erupted in every direction. A ceiling-mounted Gatling turret dropped into place, its 30mm depleted uranium rounds ready to fire. It melted before it could spin up. Leon began to dream again. He was a star, a burning, furious star. 10,000 degrees, the voice snapped. No subject can. Leon forced himself to stand. "I can't burn the poison out," he said, "but if you think I'm letting you take me back, you're coming with me." In the next instant, the heat passed 10,000 degrees. It hit the world like a piece of the sun had fallen to Earth. Everything around him vaporized. 4 hours later. Death Valley, Mojave Desert, United States. Cecil, director of the Global Defense Agency, stood beside his aide Donald at the edge of a crater nearly 300 meters wide. Both men wore sealed hazmat suits. "Sir," Donald said, voice tight, "the entire racetrack playa has been burned into glass. The chlorine gas released into the atmosphere is toxic. I've already ordered the main roads through the national park sealed off." He swallowed and looked down into the pit. He released thermal radiation equal to nearly 20 megatons of TNT, and it lasted for 8 full seconds. That's more energy than the Tunguska event. "I know, Donald," Cecil said. "You're not the only one who read the report." "Sorry, sir, I'm just saying." Is he even human? Maybe only a god could. Shut up, a god wouldn't knock himself unconscious with his—
Hey everyone, welcome to FanFic Canon. Thanks for hitting play. I'm thrilled to bring this fan-made story to life for you. If you enjoy the ride and want more narrated fanfics, smash, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want audiobook of a novel of your choice, join my Patreon. Request any title that's freely available online, and I'll produce a full narration just for you. Now, let's dive into today's adventure.
own blast. Cecil glanced at him. How long until Nolan gets here? He's training Mark, he said about an hour. Damn it, Nolan. Cecil tried to rub the bridge of his nose, then remembered the hazmat helmet was in the way. He looked down into the crater. His ocular implant brought the scene into sharp focus. At the very bottom knelt a naked young man. His eyes were shut, his body was still. But his chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. Cecil stared at him for a long moment. Let's hope he doesn't wake up before Nolan gets here. Donald looked at him. And if he does, do we have a backup plan, sir? Cecil turned away from the crater. We do. He started walking. We pray, Death Valley, Mojave Desert. Omni-Man hovered high above the crater, arms folded across his chest, his face set in a hard scowl. I don't have all day to sit here and babysit him. I can take him into space, far from Earth, and deal with him there. No one gets hurt. Cecil's voice came through his earpiece. And what happens if he explodes halfway up? Nolan said nothing. Best case, Cecil continued, the atmosphere gets wrecked, the climate goes insane, and hundreds of millions die. Worst case, he hits harder, wipes out half a continent, and humanity goes with it. A pause, you might survive that. But do you really want Mark and Debbie living in whatever broken mess is left afterward? Nolan's jaw tightened. No, good, then keep watching him. Nolan let out a slow breath. Listen, Cecil, I'm not your dog. I'm not spending the whole day doing nothing but staring at him. Call someone else. I've got more important things to handle. Before Cecil could answer, Nolan vanished into the sky. In the Global Defense Agency monitoring room, Cecil slammed his fist onto the table. Damn it. Donald, how long until the suppressor is ready? Donald straightened beside him. Sir, at least a month, he hesitated. We've never built anything capable of containing that much energy before. Then build it now. Cecil dragged a hand down his face. Fantastic, just fantastic. Get me a hazmat suit, I'll watch him myself. Sir, that's too dangerous. We can send a drone or the Guardians with a negotiator. Cecil shot him a look. Did you even read the report? The magnetic field around him is a nightmare. No electronic device can get near him and keep working. Then the Guardians and a negotiator. No, Cecil turned his head slightly. If the world's going to end, I'd rather be there when it happens. Donald had no answer. When Leon woke up, he found himself kneeling at the bottom of a massive crater. Everything around him was sealed under thick ice. A man stood in front of him wearing a heavy hazmat suit. Balding, white-haired. One side of his face was sunken, like life had carved a piece out and never put it back. Cecil, Leon muttered. The man went still. You know me, you're from Invincible. Leon blinked slowly, thoughts clicking into place. Oh, that explains it. So this was the Invincible universe. He'd been dragged here. And the bastard responsible had to be Angstrom, the one freak who could move between parallel worlds. Of course, that damn portal-hopping bastard. Cecil relaxed a fraction when he realized Leon could talk. I'm Cecil Stedman, director of the Global Defense Agency. You seem to know me, but I don't know you. My name is Leo. The memories hit again, a steel operating table, his wrists and ankles locked down, blood pooling under him. His own voice screaming his name over and over until it no longer sounded human. Leon grabbed his head and started breathing hard. The visible light around him twisted. The air flickered like a diseased wound, flashing and warping in ugly pulses. Sweat broke out across Cecil's back. He pulled out a Geiger counter and flipped it on. The device popped in his hand, its internal parts fried by a sudden 1,000-volt spike. Easy, Cecil said quickly. Kid, if you don't want to say it, don't say it. He tried to activate his teleport bracelet, nothing. Of course, luckily 3 minutes later, Leon pulled himself back together. A thin burn of heat vision erased the tear tracks on his face. He stood, expression dark, eyes steady. My name is Leon, he said, but that name doesn't matter anymore. He looked at Cecil. You can call me Homelander. All right, Homelander, Cecil glanced around the crater. Care to tell me why you punched a hole through the desert? Leon told him. The portal, the kidnapping, the labs, the biological modifications, the torture, all of it. He left out only one thing, that he knew the future of this universe. When he finished, Cecil shut his eyes for a moment and thought, we'll find a way to send you back to your universe. Let them deal with your problem. I want to go home too, Leon said, but before that I need to know if the man who did this to me is dead. Dead, Cecil swept a hand toward the crater. Look around you, you flattened Death Valley. After the blast, everything within 50 kilometers stayed at 400 degrees for 3 months, then dropped to 200 below zero for another 3. Whoever kidnapped you is dead. Donald's voice suddenly broke through Cecil's earpiece. Sir. Data shows the chance of negotiation failure just rose 20%. Maybe we should let someone else handle this. Donald, Cecil frowned. You figured out how to communicate through the magnetic distortion? No, sir. The target stabilized the magnetic field around you while you were speaking. My guess is he just learned how. Leon looked at Cecil calmly. Your assistant's right, I just learned how to repair magnetic fields. He glanced at the hazmat suit. I can also absorb radiation and cosmic rays harmful to normal humans. You can take off the turtle shell. Cecil's mouth tightened. Leon's powers didn't stop at controlling heat radiation and magnetic fields. His mind had changed too, sharpened, accelerated. Back when he watched the show, Cecil had felt like a bottomless pit, impossible to read and always 3 steps ahead. Now. Cecil was struggling to keep up with him. First, Cecil said, stepping closer, this is a private channel. No one likes an eavesdropper. Leon said nothing. Second, this turtle shell can resist intense radiation and temperature shifts over 100 degrees. It cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Cecil stopped directly in front of him. And third, you are leaving this universe immediately. That part isn't up for debate. Leon didn't answer right away. His eyes shifted past Cecil. In the distance, 7 people were waiting. Each one gave off a strange pattern of heat radiation and bioelectric current. War Woman, Red Rush, Martian Man, Green Ghost, Aquarius, Darkwing, the Immortal, the Guardians of the Globe, they were still alive. That meant Nolan hadn't made his move yet. The timeline Leon knew hadn't started. That made things difficult. He still didn't fully understand his powers. Could he beat the Guardians, the same team that had nearly killed Nolan? Maybe, maybe not. Even if he could force them back, it would draw Nolan's attention. And once Nolan saw him as a threat, Leon would become the next thing on his kill list. Nolan was one of the strongest beings in this universe. Top 5 easily. In raw power and combat experience, he was far beyond Leon, who had only just awakened. If Leon fought him now, he would die. No violence, not yet. This had to be handled with words. I'll give you a good reason to keep me here, Leon said. Cecil narrowed his eyes. I'm listening. Remember what I told you. The man who kidnapped me called me Subject Zero. Leon held Cecil's gaze. If there's a 0, there's probably a 1, a 2, a 3. Cecil's face didn't change. Leon continued. The other subjects most likely have powers similar to mine. The neurotoxin they used on them also worked on me, which means we're built close enough for the same countermeasures to apply. He looked out across the frozen crater. So my blast probably didn't kill them. Cecil's eyes sharpened. And since I can't find any trace of them here, Leon said, that means the other subjects and the person behind all of this are still hiding somewhere in this world. The wind moved softly over the glass desert. Leon's voice dropped. I want revenge. He pointed at the ground beneath them. You want fewer holes in your planet. A faint smile touched his lips. Sounds like we can help each other. Cecil stared at Leon for several seconds, then he gave his answer. No, still no, you're too dangerous and you're too unstable. Leon's eyes narrowed. Once you're back in your own universe, we'll punish whoever did this to you. A low male voice came through Cecil's comm. Cecil, you're taking too long. Do you need us to step in? Leon recognized the voice, the Immortal. So he had guessed right. The 7 people waiting outside were the Guardians of the Globe. Do not contact me, Cecil said into the comm. He can monitor electronic devices. If I need you to move, I'll give the signal. Then Cecil pulled out a pair of handcuffs covered in black magical runes and handed them to Leon. You seem like someone who can still have a conversation, Cecil said. And given what happened to you, I can understand why this accident happened. That's why I don't want to do this the hard way. He held the cuffs out. Put these on, stay here quietly until we figure out how to send you back to your own universe. During that time, if you need anything, the Global Defense Agency will do what it can. They stared at each other. Both faces were cold. Sweat soaked Cecil's back under the suit. His thumb hovered near the signal for the Guardians. Then Leon took the cuffs and put them on himself. Cecil let out a long breath. He pulled off the hazmat suit and wiped the sweat from his face. Once the cuffs locked around Leon's wrists, he could feel his powers drop. Roughly 4/5 of his strength had been sealed. It didn't hurt. If anything, it felt better. Before, Leon had felt like a baby driving a tank. Now the tank had turned into a rifle, still dangerous, still hard to control, but no longer impossible. In this state, he could explore his powers without blowing the world apart by accident. You know I can break out of these anytime I want, right? Leon said. Of course. Cecil carefully folded the hazmat suit, but I'd suggest you don't. My people can throw you into space before you get them off. He looked Leon in the eye. Remember this, as long as you're wearing those cuffs, you're not an enemy of the Global Defense Agency. Cecil pressed his comm and opened the public channel. Negotiation successful. Everyone stand down and get back to work. Tell the construction crew to hurry up. Then he turned back to Leon. What do you need? Food, drinks, something to pass the time. Newspapers, Leon said. The best civilian computer you can get with internet access. For food, I want Northeast rice, Santa Fe beef, and Neapolitan pineapple pizza. No spice, I like sweet food. Cecil nodded. His attitude had improved a lot after the cuffs went on. Food can be flown in right away. The rest will be set up by the day after tomorrow at the latest. A flash of white light swallowed him. Cecil teleported away. Leon watched him disappear. So this world isn't that different from mine after all. Far away, the 7 Guardians of the Globe heard Cecil announce that the situation had been handled. They all relaxed, at least a little. Green Ghost stared at Leon, who now sat quietly in the frozen crater with cuffs around his wrists. Her expression softened. I feel awful for him, she said. Can you imagine it? Getting kidnapped from your own universe, tortured like that, and then treated like a prisoner afterward. That doesn't change the fact that he's dangerous, the Immortal said without hesitation. He looked at the others. Red Rush and I, War Woman and Martian Man, 2 teams, rotating shifts. His voice hardened. If he makes one wrong move, we send him into space and let Nolan finish him. 2 days later, Leon sat inside the small temporary cabin the Global Defense Agency had built for him on site. He browsed the internet. Mauler twins attempt attack on White House, defeated by Guardians of the Globe. Leon stared at the headline and leaned back in his chair. Back in his own world, he had worked in international trade before switching paths. English and French had never been a problem for him, so reading everything came easily. So this is the animated version of Invincible, he murmured. That made things easier. In the animated version, at least most characters had something decent buried in them. It meant there was a real chance he could get along with Mark, the main character, without things going straight to hell. The comic version was different. In the comics, almost every important character, including Mark, could be selfish to a horrifying degree. There were too many examples to list. Just look at what comic Mark said and did when he attacked Cecil. In the animated version, that scene changed the lines and had Cecil call Mark out. It was a softer but more complete summary of how selfish Mark's actions had been in the comic. Leon wasn't a Viltrumite. He also had no real connection to Mark's circle. If this were the comic version of Mark, he would eventually find some excuse to kill Leon simply because Leon had powerful abilities, even if Leon had never done anything wrong. Just like how Mark killed Robot Ruddy near the end with a weak excuse. Spoiler warning. Comic Ruddy became a dictator and killed a small number of people, but he also created a world where humanity reached unity and everyone had enough to eat. In Leon's view, Ruddy stood on the highest moral ground in the entire comic. No one there had the right to judge him. Comic Mark killed Ruddy in the name of fighting tyranny, then kept Ruddy's system running anyway. The hypocrisy was almost funny. The most ironic part was that Mark himself became the biggest dictator in the universe. If someone believed Ruddy deserved to die and freedom and democracy had to come first no matter what, then this wasn't the kind of story for them. For now at least, the worst possible outcome could still be avoided. Of course, if Leon became strong enough, stronger than Thrag and Battle Beast, then the original story wouldn't matter at all. He could simply tear through anything in his way. Between plotting and raw power, Leon preferred the second option. He had already had enough of living under someone else's control. Then I need to get stronger, he said, closing the computer. First step, figure out these powers. Leon walked out of the cabin and started training. He stopped in front of a stack of steel frames left over from the construction crews. The low-carbon steel had small amounts of alloy mixed into it, giving it excellent heat resistance. Perfect for testing thermal radiation. Leon focused. He gathered the heat radiation drifting through the surrounding environment and forced it onto the steel frame. A shimmer rolled over the metal like rippling water. Hot air wrapped around the frame. Orange-yellow light began to glow from its surface. He burned the steel for only a minute. He hadn't even reached his current limit when the temperature around him suddenly dropped. It plunged fast, too fast, straight toward absolute zero. His instincts screamed danger. Leon immediately stopped controlling the surrounding heat radiation. What the hell was that? He went back inside and searched online for answers. After reading through the basics, Leon came up with a rough explanation. Every object above absolute zero emitted thermal radiation. That radiation transferred between objects and created the temperature conditions needed for life. But he had pulled too much flowing thermal radiation out of the natural environment. He had broken thermodynamics and forced entropy to decrease. That had triggered a massive temperature drop. If he hadn't stopped in time, everything around him might have fallen into the abyss of absolute zero. At that point, the physical properties of time and space themselves would have frozen. Leon stared at his hands. My power is that terrifying. He waited for the surrounding temperature to return to normal. Only then did he dare continue. This time, he didn't touch the heat radiation in the air. He stood in front of the steel again and called on the power inside his own body. Red light burned in his eyes, heat vision fired. The stacked low-carbon steel, several meters thick, split in half instantly. The beams cut through it like a hot knife through butter. No resistance. No delay. Compared to attacks formed by controlling external heat radiation, heat vision was faster, cleaner, and far more powerful. Only being able to fire beams from my eyes is too limiting. What about the rest of my body? Leon shifted the power inside him away from his eyes and into the index finger of his right hand. In a single instant, everything within 50 meters vanished. Matter broke apart. The air itself boiled into ions. By the time Leon pulled the power back from his finger, he found himself standing at the bottom of an even deeper crater. He froze for several seconds, then it clicked. So my eyes aren't the source, he muttered. They're limiters. To a normal human eye, Leon had simply stood there while everything around him disappeared. But through his thermal vision, he had seen it clearly. His finger had released a blinding beam of light. Its wavelength had already moved beyond what human eyes could see, and its destructive power was far beyond the infrared beams from his eyes. Leon thought it over for a moment. From now on, he would use heat vision in fights. Let his enemies think his eyes were his biggest weakness. Then, when he faced a real threat, or when someone found a way to block his eyes, he could show them what his body was actually capable of. That would be a nasty surprise. Leon flew out of the crater and looked around. His cabin was gone too. The test had vaporized it. He shook his head and moved on to testing his other power, electromagnetic field control. He could have the GDA build him another cabin later. So far, he had only found two uses for his electromagnetic abilities: disrupting electronics and flight. There were only rocks around him, no devices to test on, so he focused on flying. Leon rose into the air and circled the sky a few times, smooth and steady. The more he flew, the more he realized his electromagnetic control didn't feel like something he had to train through effort. It felt like muscle memory. He remembered how hard it had been for Mark when he first learned to fly. His heart rate had gone out of rhythm. He had blacked out, his muscles had locked up, and he couldn't brake properly. But Leon had also just gained his powers, and flying felt easy. He felt like a steel ball suspended inside a magnet, and at the same time, he was the magnet. How fast he moved when he stopped where he turned, all of it answered to a single thought. Stability's good, Leon said, eyes lifting toward the clouds. Now let's see how fast I can go. He was about to launch upward when the Immortal appeared above him, hovering in his blue and white suit, staring down with ice in his eyes. Get back down. Leon looked up at him. You could try saying that like a normal person. I don't owe courtesy to a threat. Leon stared at him for a long second. The urge to kill rose in his chest. He pushed it down, then he turned and flew back to the ground. No need to handle this himself. Nolan would butcher this guy soon enough. As for his freedom. If Leon stayed calm and played along, things would change after Nolan wiped out the Guardians. Cecil would be short on people. And when that happened, there was a good chance he would invite Leon to join the new Guardians team. Once that happened, freedom would come naturally. For now, I might as well keep training my heat vision. Is that a distress signal? High above the desert, Mark hovered in the night sky wearing pajamas, goggles, and a makeshift mask. He stared down at the red flashes blinking inside a huge crater below. He had only just gotten his powers, and he was desperate to become a superhero like his dad, Omni-Man, so he had sneaked out at night to practice flying. Did someone fall in and get stuck? Mark wondered. He adjusted his posture and started flying down toward the red light. Badly, crooked, way too fast. This area is restricted. Turn around immediately or we will open fire. The broadcast echoed across the desert. Special forces stationed around the crater raised laser weapons and aimed at Mark in the sky. Mark tried to brake, just like the 100 times before he failed. 200 meters away, Leon had just discovered that his heat vision could curve when he sensed something wrong. Besides the Immortal watching him from above, another humanoid object was falling toward the crater at high speed. The heat from air friction lit the figure up clearly in Leon's thermal vision. He saw the outline of the face. That familiar swept-back hair. Mark, why the hell is he here? Before Leon could figure it out, the Immortal shot toward Mark. His fists clenched. He was ready to strike. Leon moved too. His acceleration was faster. Just as the Immortal's fist was about to smash into Mark's face, Leon reached him first and shoved him aside. Mark missed the punch by inches. Ow! Mark hit the ground and bounced, punching several holes into the desert floor before finally stopping. He staggered up, groaning. "What just happened?" "You shouldn't be here," Leon said, reaching out to help him up. Mark took his hand, looking embarrassed. "I heard the alarm, but I couldn't control." He didn't finish. The Immortal punched Leon into the sky. "Red Rush, deal with the intruder," the Immortal snapped. "I'm taking this human bomb into space." A blast of wind followed him as he chased Leon upward. The Immortal, Mark's eyes widened. As a superhero fan, he recognized the Immortal instantly. Besides, he had met him before at backyard barbecue parties when the Guardians came over to his house. Wait, ow. Laser shots came at Mark from every direction. Then a red blur streaked toward him like lightning. Mark saw the punch coming and ripped off his mask. "Uncle Joseph, it's me, Mark." Red Rush's fist stopped right in front of Mark's nose. "Mark, Nolan's kid. What are you doing here?" "I was flying and I saw a red light flashing on the ground. I thought someone needed help." Red Rush quickly called off the soldiers. "How did you even fly in here?" Cecil sent warning aircraft to lock down the airspace. "Oh," Mark said, "so that's why those planes kept chasing me." Red Rush stared at him, helpless. Their families lived close to each other and they had a good relationship. His wife often went over to Mark's house for dinner. Now that Nolan's kid was in trouble, Red Rush had to help. "I'll call a car and get you out of here," Red Rush said. "Once you're far enough away, fly home. I won't tell Cecil or Nolan about this." "Thanks, Uncle Joseph." Mark looked up at the two figures fighting in the sky. "But can you tell the Immortal to stop? He attacked me first. The guy in handcuffs helped me. This has to be some kind of misunderstanding." "It's too late." Red Rush shook his head. "Do you know how this crater under our feet got here? A meteor? I wish." Red Rush looked up. "That kid up there, Homelander, made it." "What?" Mark turned and looked at the massive crater around them. A chill climbed up his spine. "This place is his prison now," Red Rush said. "The Global Defense Agency promised to send him back to his own universe as long as he stays here quietly." His voice lowered. "But if he breaks the rules, then we send him into space and execute him." "Execute him?" Mark stared at him. "Did he hurt anyone?" "Not yet. So because he blew a hole in the desert, you're going to execute him? That's insane, and he only left because he was protecting me." Red Rush put a hand on Mark's shoulder, warning him to stop talking. "Go home, kid. It's too early for you to play superhero." "Kid, play superhero." Mark remembered Nolan's punch from a few days ago. He remembered the pity in his father's eyes. His hands tightened into fists. "I'm not a kid." "Mark, don't." Mark tore free from Red Rush's grip and shot into the sky. Red Rush could only stand there on the ground, staring after him. Leon was knocked into the sky, but he steadied himself before he reached the stratosphere. The Immortal's punch had clearly been meant to launch him clean out of Earth's orbit, but when Leon checked his chest, he found no injury. Not even his shirt was torn, and he was pretty sure it was just a normal shirt. "Wait," he tapped his chest. There it was, an invisible biomagnetic field, wrapped around him like a shield, hovering about 5 centimeters above his skin. The force from the Immortal's punch had been deflected by that field before it ever reached his body. Not a single bit of damage had landed on him. "Can I control this field myself?" Whoosh, a violent blast of air tore up from below. Leon shifted 1 meter to the side on instinct and dodged the Immortal's next attack. "Stop moving," the Immortal growled. "You broke the agreement, now you pay for it." "What agreement?" Leon lifted his wrists, showing the black handcuffs still locked around them. "I'm still wearing these, aren't I?" He shook the cuffs. "As long as I'm wearing them, I'm not an enemy of the Global Defense Agency. Your director said that." "I'm a guardian of the globe," the Immortal said, "not one of Cecil's dogs." His fists tightened. "You're a threat. For this planet's sake, I have to remove you." He charged again, moving frighteningly fast. Leon immediately turned and shot upward. Perfect. This was a great chance to test his flight speed. The night wind rushed around him. The stars glittered over the empty desert. Leon flew through the sky with a thrill running through his chest. Soon he broke the sound barrier and hit Mach 1. His flight was almost silent. Other than the faint violet ion trail behind him, he left barely any disturbance in the air. The Immortal, on the other hand, was loud as hell. He tore after Leon like a screaming storm. After 5 or 6 minutes of pursuit, 2 or 3 more sonic booms exploded behind him. The Immortal's speed kept climbing until it finally passed Leon's limit. "Got you, kid." He lunged for Leon, arms wide to grab him. Leon dropped into a sharp dive and slipped out of reach, forcing the Immortal to kill his speed. "I'm not as fast as him," Leon thought, "but I'm more precise." He slowed down and the fight turned into a high-altitude chase. The Immortal was faster and stronger. But every strike missed Leon by a hair, again and again and again. It was starting to piss him off. I said stop moving, moron, you think saying it makes it happen. They chased each other all the way up to the stratosphere. Then Leon's flight suddenly turned unstable. He realized the problem almost at once. The farther he moved from Earth, the weaker the magnetic field became. His flight ability was being affected. Get off my planet. The immortal seized the opening and threw a full-force punch at Leon's jaw. Not good, hey, stop. Another burst of air ripped through the sky. The expected blow never hit Leon. He corrected his position and looked over. Mark had rushed in and shoved the immortal aside. Who? The immortal steadied himself after being knocked away. Mark. What are you doing here? He had been ready to counterattack, but the moment he saw who it was, he stopped. I thought someone here needed help, Mark said quickly. But forget that for now. Homelander only left the prison because he was protecting me. He looked between them, breath uneven. I can't let someone get hurt because of my mistake. If he goes back quietly, can you let this go? The immortal stared at him, eyes cold. You attacked me, and now you're protecting a dangerous man. Do you even know what he's done? Mark shrank back under his glare. He blew a hole in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's not exactly unheard of. Didn't Doc Seismic do something last month? A 300 square kilometer collapse, the immortal snapped. 800 square kilometers affected, an entire salt flat turned to glass. He pointed down. You call that a hole? Mark hesitated. Do you have any idea how many people would die if he exploded in a city? Would he? Mark turned to Leon. Would you? Explode, kill people, stuff like that? Leon stared at him. Now he was asking that now. Mark really was weirdly innocent sometimes. I was locked up and used for human experiments, Leon said. Tortured for almost 3 years. I caused that explosion because I was trying to escape. He lifted his wrists and showed Mark the black cuffs. I've never wanted to hurt innocent people. I won't in the future either. I put on these power-limiting cuffs myself to prove that. His eyes moved back to the immortal. But apparently some people would rather hunt down the victim than catch the bastard who ran the experiments. Mark looked at the immortal in shock. Is that true? And if it is, the immortal said sharply, right now he's a threat to everyone. He has to be eliminated. He jabbed a finger toward Mark. After he's dead, the Guardians will find whoever's responsible. Now move, Mark. Go play superhero somewhere else. Play superhero? You know, that little street crime routine you've been doing. Mark's face changed. You've been watching me. The immortal paused. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Mark's jaw tightened. Let Homelander go back. Leon watched from behind Mark, his emotions suddenly complicated. Somehow he had triggered a butterfly effect. Not only had Mark shown up here, but now he was standing against the immortal because of him. Because you're Nolan's son, I'll give you one more chance, the immortal said. Leave, Mark. No, Mark raised his fists. This started because of me. I'm not walking away. If my dad were here, he'd do the same thing. The immortal kept calling him Nolan's son. It only made Mark angrier. He clenched both fists and took a fighting stance. He was making it clear he would protect Leon by force if he had to. Leon suddenly felt like he was being shielded by the possessive male lead in a romance drama. Honestly, not bad. He could understand those stories a little better now. Since talking wasn't working, the immortal moved first. He swung a palm strike at Mark, clearly intending to knock him away. After the aerial chase, Leon had figured out a few more ways to use his electromagnetic control. The instant the bioelectric current in the immortal's brain spiked, Leon predicted his move. Heat vision burst from Leon's eyes and cut in front of Mark. The immortal was forced to pull back. Your name's Mark, right? Leon said to him. Thanks for speaking up for me. Mark blinked, only just catching up to what had happened. But this has nothing to do with you. You should leave. The words had barely left his mouth when the immortal pulled a sharp aerial maneuver. Before Leon could retract his heat vision, the immortal slipped behind him and locked both arms around him. He pinned Leon's neck, keeping his head fixed so he couldn't turn and fire heat vision. No. Mark shouted, blame your own bad luck, the immortal whispered in Leon's ear. He prepared to throw Leon into space. Blame me? Leon's face twisted. People from your universe kidnapped me, cut me open, tortured me, and now somehow I'm the one at fault. His voice dropped into something ugly. Let me tell you something, old man. The air around him trembled. I haven't even started trying. Leon seized the surrounding thermal radiation and sent it straight into the immortal's skull, a flash of internal laser surgery. The immortal's optic nerves were severed. The real Superman from DC had once used a similar trick to remove someone's brain tumor. Leon used it for something much less charitable. The immortal let go of him at once. He clutched at his ruined eyes as the burned remains slipped from their sockets. How he had pinned the kid's head, he had avoided the heat vision, so how the hell had he been hit? My eyes, you little bastard, I'll kill you, Leon smiled. Red light gathered in his eyes again. That was just the start. I'm going to take you apart piece by piece. The immortal roared and charged. Leon laughed and fired back with heat vision. Stop fighting, Mark suddenly flew between them. Leon hadn't expected him to be that reckless. Luckily, during training he had discovered he could bend his heat vision. He curved the beam away in time, sparing Mark by inches. Move! The immortal, blinded by rage and pain, showed none of Leon's restraint. He swung his arm and smashed Mark out of the way. Mark had only just awakened his powers. He didn't even have a real suit yet. The immortal's furious blow knocked him unconscious instantly. Blood streamed from Mark's nose as he fell toward the ground. Leon's stomach sank. Oh hell. If Mark was here at this point in the timeline, that meant. In the blink of an eye, a middle-aged man in a red and white suit appeared and caught Mark before he hit the ground. He looked a little too much like J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. Leon swallowed. The red glow in his eyes faded. Of course. Omni-Man Nolan, people online had plenty of nicknames for him. Omnidad, Discount Superman, the usual. His powers were nowhere near DC Superman's level, but Nolan had something Superman didn't. Superman, at his core, was a kind farm boy. Nolan was a killer, an extinction-level weapon in the shape of a man. He was one of the strongest Viltrumites alive, and the blood on his hands had to be counted in billions. Just being near him made Leon's instincts scream. A cold pressure crawled up from the bottom of his spine. His hands and feet stiffened without his permission. Through Leon's thermal vision, Nolan's body temperature looked no different from an ordinary human's, but he gave off long-wave radiation on a planetary scale. Through electromagnetic sensing, his shape was even worse. Nolan's biomagnetic field looked like a long, continuous worm. Wrong, unnatural, nothing like a normal living creature. Viltrumite powers break physics too, Leon thought. That moment of distraction cost him. The immortal, who hadn't even noticed Nolan yet, roared and drove several punches into Leon's body. Leon was sent flying, tumbling through the air at high speed. The biomagnetic field over his skin flickered and almost collapsed. Once I throw you into space, I'm gouging your eyes out too. The immortal shot after him and swung an uppercut straight at Leon's face. Boom! A heavy impact cracked through the air. A large red and white gloved hand caught the immortal's full-force punch and held it in place. Omni-Man. The immortal's voice cracked. He tried to pull back, but Nolan's grip closed around his hand like an iron vice. He wasn't going anywhere. I've always thought you and Cecil loved making mountains out of molehills, Nolan said calmly. But hurting Mark, his voice stayed flat. That only made it worse. That crosses a line. Nolan's grip tightened, bone began to creak. The immortal's expression changed and he rushed to explain. I didn't mean to, he flew into the battlefield on his own. The crackling sound from his hand didn't stop. Nolan stared at him with a faint trace of contempt and anger in his eyes. Ever since Mark's Viltrumite blood had awakened, Nolan had been hesitating. Should he still carry out the conquest plan he had set in motion when he first came to Earth? Now this looked like a fine excuse to start. You've eaten in my home, Nolan said. Mark grilled meat for you with his own hands. His eyes grew colder. And this is how you treat him? I'm going to cough, Dad. Mark suddenly coughed and woke up in Nolan's arms. He saw Leon standing nearby with his arms folded. Then he saw Nolan facing down the immortal. Mark panicked. Dad, stop, this is my fight. He tried to push Nolan away. He hit you, Nolan said. I can't just let him. I can take a punch, Mark snapped. Last time you only scared me, that's all. I'm strong, I can handle pain, I can be a superhero. Mark, I know you're strong. That look again, pity. The same look Nolan had given him before. It stabbed straight into Mark's teenage pride. No, you don't. Mark wiped the blood from under his nose and pointed at the bruises on his chest. You think I can't take it, but I can. Hit me again, I'll take it. His voice cracked with frustration. Please, Dad, hit me. Nolan stared at him. For once he looked genuinely stunned. Debbie's words came back to him, sharp and uncomfortable. You're pushing him too hard. For a moment, Nolan didn't know what to say. Ever since I was a kid, Mark said, his anger slowly collapsing into something quieter, all I wanted was to be a superhero. He looked down. I just wanted to be perfect like you. I wanted to help people like you do. Nolan sighed. Then he released the immortal and let him retreat to the side. Go ahead, Mark. Mark looked up, surprised. This is your fight, Nolan said. I won't interfere. Mark's face lit up. Nolan gave him a small, fatherly nod. Nolan, listen to me, the immortal said quickly. I never wanted to hurt. I said I'm not interfering, Nolan cut in. He didn't even look at him. If you've got something to say it to Mark. Then Nolan turned his head slightly toward Leon. His voice dropped low enough that only Leon could hear. Don't make me regret not throwing you into space. The meaning was clear. If anything happened to Mark, Nolan would blame him. With that, Nolan turned and flew away. Leon watched the trail he left in the sky and gave a bitter smile. He hadn't expected the butterfly effect to be this big. I'll say it again, Mark said. He raised both fists and faced the immortal. Let Homelander go back. Because of Nolan's arrival, the immortal had calmed down. Mostly, his face was still dark. No, Mark, he said. Hitting you was my mistake, but for the safety of everyone else he has to be dealt with. He paused. And don't push me, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of Nolan either. The tension snapped tight again. Then Cecil finally arrived in an armed helicopter with the rest of the Guardians of the Globe behind him. This circus ends now, Cecil's voice cut across the desert. Green Ghost, take the immortal back and cool him off. He pointed next. Darkwing, bring those two with me to the GDA. 2 hours later, Global Defense Agency Headquarters, New York. Leon sat inside a power-suppressing containment cell covered head to toe in hell restraints. He awkwardly ate sausage fried rice with chained hands. You guys know how these restraints work, right? He glanced at the soldiers watching him from every corner of the room. They pull power out of me and feed it to some demon lord in hell. The soldiers stiffened. Leon took another bite of rice. It's been whispering in my ear for a while now, keeps telling me to become its servant, says if I agree, it'll kill every one of you and your families. As he spoke, black smoke oozed from the hell restraints around his body. The soldiers went pale, rifles snapped up, all aimed at him. Put the guns down. Cecil's voice came from the entrance. The bald, white-haired man walked through layer after layer of security and sat down in front of Leon. Then he placed a teleport bracelet on Leon's wrist. Remove the restraints, Cecil ordered. The soldiers hesitated. They had just been threatened by a demon after all. Cecil repeated himself, sharper this time. You heard what he said. Unless you want your families murdered by something from hell, take the damn restraints off. That got them moving. The shackles came loose. The moment Leon's full power returned, he understood what the bracelet was for. It absorbed the excess energy in his body in a gentle, controlled way. The effect was similar to the hell restraints, except Leon could take back his power whenever he wanted. You proved stability during your fight with the immortal, Cecil said. He folded his hands in front of him. The psychological evaluation says you're an ordinary trauma patient with a stress response. Most superheroes have some version of that problem. Leon raised an eyebrow. Cecil continued. I'll arrange an identity for you. You'll be free to live within the United States until we find a way to send you home. Leon leaned back. That sounds nice. What's the catch? Mark will be your legal guardian. Leon stared at him. Cecil didn't blink. You must stay within 2 kilometers of him at all times. If you don't, we bring you back here. When he comes to pick you up, you can leave. Leon was silent for a beat. Is he okay with that? Cecil shrugged. Not really, but he agreed. A faint hint of dry amusement crossed his face. You're the first person that kid has saved since becoming a superhero. I think he feels responsible for you. Cecil stood and opened the door. Mark walked in. He had changed into a dark blue knit sweater that made him look like a rich kid wandering around a golf course. Hey, Homelander, Leon. Mark sat down across from him, awkwardly scratching his head. I talked it over with Cecil. You can transfer to my school and learn the basics of this world. He gave Leon a hopeful look. What do you think? Leon's cheek twitched. I'm 25, I had a job. Do I look like someone who should be going to high school? 25. Mark stared at him. You don't even look 16. Cecil had someone bring over a mirror. Leon took it. The face staring back at him was young again, so young it almost looked unfamiliar. He stared for several seconds. Apparently his powers came with age reversal too. He lowered the mirror. What school are you sending me to? Reginald Vell Johnson High School, Mark said. That's where I go. He gave a small, embarrassed smile. It's not exactly amazing, but don't worry, I'll look after you. After Mark left with Leon, Cecil returned to the communications room. Donald brought him Leon's psychological evaluation file. Sir, you shouldn't have let him walk out that easily, Donald said, unease written all over his face. He answered every question perfectly. That means not a single answer was honest. He's very likely a high IQ sociopath. You think I missed something that obvious? Cecil tossed the file onto the table. He was wearing hell cuffs strong enough to restrain Nolan, and he still almost cooked the immortal alive. We can't control him. He looked at the screen. Technology to cross parallel universes is at least 20 years away. As for a suppressor, don't even get me started. Cecil's mouth tightened. If Mark wants to deal with this mess, let him. If things go wrong, Nolan will cover it. But sir, Nolan won't be happy. If Nolan had kept his son from flying around wherever he wanted, none of this would have happened. If he's got a problem, he knows where to find me. Cecil stared at the monitor. On the screen, Leon was flying beside Mark toward his new place. Cecil still remembered the look on Leon's face when the kid first saw him. You're Cecil, from Invincible. What kind of universe had he come from? And who was kidnapping people from parallel worlds for biological experiments? If 10 or 20 more subjects like Leon appeared and attacked major cities across the globe, what then? Cecil rubbed his forehead. Perfect, just perfect, didn't think the day could get worse. 7 days later. Reginald Vell Johnson High School outside Chicago. This is our new transfer student, Leon Kennedy. I hope everyone helps him settle in. Standing at the front of the classroom, Leon smiled and greeted the teenagers staring at him. Every corner of the school smelled like a mix of hormones and weed. Some people might call that freedom. Leon called it disgusting. Thank God he didn't have super smell or he would have thrown up on the spot. There's an empty seat in the back row, the teacher said. You can sit there. Of course, Ms. Haywood. The moment Leon sat down, whispers broke out around him. Ms. Haywood, wow, what is he from the 80s? He talks like some British gentleman, what a freak. He's hot though, anyone wanna shoot their shot? This was going to be torture. Leon sighed and took out his books and stationery. Having Mark protect him wasn't all bad. Besides, he was under Nolan's nose now. Keeping his head down was the smart move. Near the window, a pretty girl with orange-red hair had been staring at him since he walked in. Eve, you into the new guy? Her friend's teasing snapped Eve back to herself. Don't start, Eve said quickly. I have a boyfriend. Leon spent the whole morning paying attention in class while also observing his new classmates. American teenagers were certainly full of personality, not the good kind. Most of them seemed to have at least brushed up against sex, gambling, drugs, or all three. No wonder teen crime had become its own social disaster. The students were a mess. But the teachers were genuinely good, especially the writing class. It was far better than the language classes Leon remembered back home. For the first time, someone who had never cared much for foreign literature started to feel something for Shakespeare and Shelley. The funeral song rises, and night becomes the dome of a vast tomb. Power gathers, then breaks, while black rain, lightning, and hail sing a dirge from another world. Leon, during break, Mark rushed over with his best friend William and interrupted Leon's quiet reading. First day going okay? Any problems? Did anyone mess with you? He looked genuinely worried, like he was afraid Leon might have one bad day and turn the school into a crater. Not yet. Leon closed the book. Relax, I'm an adult. I'm not going to lose my temper over teenage nonsense. He paused. And if someone really bothers me, I'll tell a teacher. Mark let out a huge breath. Leon's maturity was doing wonders for his stress levels. Hey there, handsome. William leaned in with a bright grin. I'm William, Mark's best friend, like very best friend. Mark's face twitched. Mark told me an exchange student was staying with him, but he didn't say you were this cute. A little short, though. Hey, why'd you hit me? Mark quickly elbowed William to shut him up. He was Leon's guardian now, technically. He wanted to make at least a decent impression. Nice to meet you, William. Leon smiled and shook his hand, not bothered by the strange greeting. Mark suddenly felt grateful that Leon was the first person he had taken responsibility for. After a short round of small talk, the three of them headed toward the cafeteria. William was especially excited. Walking between two good-looking guys, he looked like he might faint from joy. Mark was walking around with a grumpy face for days after Todd beat him up, William said. Then today, boom, suddenly he's alive again. I wondered what happened. Turns out he made a new friend. William, Mark lowered his voice and glared at him. Stop telling people embarrassing stuff about me. Wow, William said, giving him a meaningful look. You really care what he thinks. Mark looked ready to explode. Don't make it weird. I didn't say anything. William grinned. As the two bickered, Leon suddenly stopped. Someone's coming at us. Mark looked up. Who? Hey, Mark Grayson. A tall, curly-haired guy walked toward them with a nasty grin. I don't see Amber around. Guess no one's here to protect you today, loser. Come on, Todd, Mark muttered. Not now. Seeing the school bully closing in on Mark, William quickly pulled Leon to the side. I'm getting security, Leon said. No, William grabbed him fast. That'll make it worse. Everyone hates snitches. You and Mark will get iced out. Leon gave a dry laugh. They hate snitches, but they're fine with bullying. Classic. He didn't care. He turned and started walking down the hall, then someone grabbed the back of his collar. Where do you think you're going, new kid? Todd, who had been targeting Mark a second ago, had turned his attention to Leon. He shoved Leon back into a row of lockers. Don't touch him, Mark shouted, anger and panic mixing in his voice. That only made Todd more interested. Don't what? Don't beat your ass again. You want a repeat of last time, coward. Leon noticed Mark's fear and raised one hand, signaling that he was fine. Then he looked Todd in the eyes. Home life bad? Todd's face changed. Leon continued, calm and cold. I'm guessing your father drinks. Hits your mother too, doesn't he? The hallway went quiet. You bully weaker people at school because it makes you feel in control, but here's a tip, it only makes your life worse. Shut up, Todd's face twisted. Who said you could talk about my family? I wasn't gonna hit you, but now I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Leon stared at him. Then what are you waiting for? Todd snapped. He roared and drove a heavy punch into Leon's face. Leon didn't even tilt his head. The students watching went dead silent. William's eyes went wide, his mouth hanging open. I said don't touch him. Mark stepped in to stop it, and Todd, still furious, backhanded him in the face. Just like with Leon, the punch did nothing. To Mark, it wasn't even an itch. Happy now? Mark asked calmly. After what had happened with Leon, he had worked through the anger and humiliation Todd used to bring out of him. Fuck you, Todd lost it. He started swinging wildly at Leon and Mark. The noise drew students from nearby classrooms, and soon the hallway was packed. Todd punched and punched until his own hands felt like they were about to break. But Leon and Mark stood there like two mountains. Neither one moved. A chill crawled into Todd's chest. For one terrible second, he had the feeling those two mountains could crush him into paste whenever they wanted. You two are freaks. Clutching his aching fists, Todd stumbled away. What an asshole, Mark said. You hurt. No, I'm fine. My dad and the immortal hit way harder than that. William slowly came back over, staring at both of them like he'd just watched a magic trick. Did you two secretly learn kung fu without telling me? He's just weak, Leon said. Come on, let's eat. At lunch, William left to return his tray, giving Mark a chance to speak privately. Sorry your first day had to start like that, Mark said. After school, how about we go to New York? Sure, Leon said. What do you want to do there? Mark smiled. Fight crime, obviously. After school, Mark and Leon went home to change. They agreed to meet in the air above Leon's place. Cecil had arranged for Leon to live in another small town about a kilometer from Mark's. It was a typical American suburban house. Nice from the outside, bright siding, clean windows, a neat little yard. But the walls and ceiling were all cheap lumber and plastic. Leon didn't even want to imagine what would happen if termites showed up or a storm rolled through. This is worse than a brick house in the countryside. Leon changed into athletic clothes and flew into the sky to wait for Mark. He narrowed his eyes. Soon he saw Mark rushing toward him in an orange-red shirt, matching boots, and blue pants. A fatal color combination. Hey. Mark said, grinning. Ready, let's go. Leon stared at him. Do you have to dress like that? Mark scratched his head, embarrassed. Yeah, I know it's kind of lame, but being a superhero is about doing good, not looking good. Looking good matters too, Leon said. A clean, recognizable outfit tells people who's on their side. Injured civilians are less likely to throw rocks at you if you don't look like some random lunatic. Well, Mark, deep in his rebellious phase, reflexively pushed back. You're not exactly dressed better than me. Leon's body suddenly darkened. Within seconds, he became pitch black from head to toe, like the night had taken human form. I can control thermal radiation. Light, basically. Clothes don't matter to me. He pointed at Mark. You should go home and change. If you don't know how to match colors, wear a solid color. Anything would look better than this. Mark's face went red. He looked down and mumbled for a while before finally blurting it out. You think I don't know how bad this looks? His voice tightened. When I fly too fast or fight, my clothes burn. I don't have money to keep buying new ones, so I have to wear old stuff. Happy now? Can we go? For a teenager Mark's age, admitting he couldn't afford new clothes in front of a friend was humiliating. Leon didn't push it. He waved him forward and flew toward New York with a sulky Mark trailing beside him. To make sure Mark's clothes didn't catch fire, the trip took 3 hours. Leon was bored and sleepy. Mark, what? Are we flying the wrong way? Can you carry me? I want a nap. Mark stared at him. Fly yourself, lazy. They finally reached the skies above New York. Leon looked down, the city that never sleeps, America's Gotham, the capital of the world. Hey, Mark suddenly perked up. I heard gunshots. He flew toward a distant alley. Leon followed. In the alley, 2 robbers in suits and a huge man whose upper body was covered in stone were running from a storm of police bullets. You shouldn't have run with us, idiot. One robber snapped at the stone man. You were supposed to stay behind and hold them off so we could get away. The stone man shot back. I came to protect you. If I stay behind eating bullets, how am I supposed to protect you? Shut up and get us over that fence. Around the corner on the other side of the fence, Mark crouched low, vibrating with excitement. He was clearly waiting for the criminals to jump over so he could make a cool entrance in front of Leon. Leon looked at him. What are you doing? SHH, Mark whispered. Waiting for them to come over, then we ambush them. Ambush? You're just going to charge in? What else would I do? Leon let out a long sigh. Mark immediately got annoyed. Hey, if you don't want to help, you can watch from the side. Mark, think. Behind them is a busy street. If you punch someone into traffic and cause a crash, the injuries and damages could be worse than whatever these guys were about to do. Mark stiffened. Then what do you suggest, genius? Simple, 2 methods. Leon raised one finger. If they're weaker than us, take them into the sky. Then another. If they're as strong as us or stronger, draw their attention and move the battlefield. If that doesn't work, take the hits until civilians escape, then counterattack. Mark froze. He wanted to argue, but Leon made too much sense. He muttered, half stubborn, half guilty, "You said all that and still didn't say what we're doing right now." Leon glanced at the criminals. "Do you think those three are stronger than us? Probably weaker. I mean, we haven't fought them. They're running from cops with guns. They're weaker." Leon nodded toward the fence. "You grab the big rock guy. I'll take the two normal ones. We carry them into the sky." Mark grumbled under his breath, but in the end he did it. When the stone man jumped over the fence while holding the two suited robbers, Mark grabbed him around the waist and launched straight upward. Leon caught the other two by the legs and followed. "Freeze, hands up." By the time the armed police reached the alley, all they found were scattered weapons and a bag of stolen cash. They rose 300 meters into the air. The two robbers in Leon's grip had already wet themselves, but the stone man in Mark's arms kept fighting. "Let me go," he shouted, pounding Mark's back. Mark winced. "Dude, are you sure you want me to let go right now?" Even while getting hit, Mark kept his grip tight. He was afraid the man would fall and die. "I said let me go." The stone man realized Mark was too soft to drop him, so his attacks grew harder and faster, trying to force Mark to land. When Mark started coughing blood, Leon's eyes glowed red. "Enough, Mark, take these two down to the police. I'll teach this asshole a lesson." Leon dropped the two robbers from the sky, forcing Mark to catch them. Then he grabbed the stone man by the throat with one hand and shot upward. In an instant, they reached 10,000 meters. The teleport bracelet on Leon's wrist began flashing, warning him that he was more than 2 kilometers away from Mark. Under acceleration that passed 50 gs, the stone man who had been so arrogant seconds earlier became a loose puppet, twitching helplessly in Leon's hand. Leon carried him into the stratosphere. The stone man finally released his rock skin. Like a fish pulled from water, he wheezed weakly, eyes wide with terror. "Please," he gasped. "Spare me, I have a wife, kids." Leon sneered. "Everybody's got someone." He tightened his grip slightly. "The person you were just beating is somebody's son too. Where was your mercy then?" I was scared." "You should be more scared now." Red light gathered in Leon's eyes. "Mark's a good person, that's why you thought you could use him like a punching bag." Leon leaned closer. "I'm not like him." His voice turned cold. "I'm Homelander. I crush pests that get in my way." The heat vision fired straight at the stone man's face. With the last of his strength, the man forced his rock skin back into place. The same skin that could deflect bullets evaporated under Leon's weakest heat vision like paper in a furnace. One more second and Leon would have erased him. "Leon," Mark's voice came from below. The air in the stratosphere was thin. If Leon could hear him, Mark was already close. "That fast? Since when could Mark move like that?" Leon pulled back the heat vision. "You got lucky, Rockhead." Still holding the unconscious stone man by the throat, Leon turned to meet Mark. Then he stopped. Beside Mark flew a broad, muscular man in a red and white suit, Omni-Man Nolan. "Thank God," Mark said when he saw the stone man was still alive. "I thought you killed him." "Son," Nolan said, placing a hand on Mark's shoulder, "take the criminal down to the police. I need to talk to Homelander." His eyes moved to Leon. They were not friendly. Mark hesitated. "But Dad, I'm his guardian." "Relax, I promised you I'd leave this matter in your hands and I won't do anything to him." "Okay." Mark turned to Leon, who had started sweating. "This is my dad, Omni-Man. He wants to talk to you." He gave him a reassuring look. "He's a good person, don't be nervous. Give me the guy, I'll be right back." Leon handed over the stone man. Mark took him and flew down toward the city. That left Leon and Nolan alone in the sky. Nolan's stare grew colder by the second. "Hello, I know who you are," Nolan cut in coldly. "I noticed you before Cecil did." His eyes stayed fixed on Leon. "You're lucky Mark got involved. If he hadn't, the moment the immortal screwed up, I would have thrown you into space and crushed your skull like an insect." A pause. Exactly like what you were about to do to that criminal. So it was just as Leon had expected. Everything he had done had been under Omni-Man's eyes, including the part where he had nearly killed Titan. "If you wanted to kill me, you wouldn't be talking this much," Leon said, meeting Nolan's gaze. "What do you want from me?" Nolan's eyes shifted slightly. Then he looked toward the direction Mark had flown off in. The hard line between his brows eased a little. "How did you get him to listen? Brainwashing?" "What?" Leon blinked. "You mean when I taught him how to handle criminals, I just gave him some advice?" "I don't have mind control powers." "Mark never listens when I teach him how to deal with enemies," Nolan said. "Why would he listen to you? You're a stranger." Leon was honestly thrown for a second. He had expected Nolan to show up threatening murder. He had not expected a conversation about how to communicate with his teenage son. "I guess it's because I'm close to his age," Leon said. "Kids don't like hearing their parents lecture them." Nolan looked at him. His face was still cold, but something in it loosened. And Leon continued, I think Mark doesn't listen to you because you're too perfect in his mind. Oh, Nolan raised an eyebrow, go on. When Mark sees his perfect father use methods he doesn't understand or agree with, that perfect image cracks. Leon kept his voice calm. That kind of disappointment hits hard, it messes with the way he sees the world, that's probably why he resists when you talk about this stuff. He paused, but I'm sure he still listens to you in other areas. Nolan thought for a moment, the sharpness in his face slowly shifted into something softer, almost understanding. You're smart, Nolan said, then he moved closer. For a stranger staying near Mark, you're a little too smart, like a snake hiding in the grass. Thanks, Leon didn't move. If Nolan wanted to kill him, running wouldn't help. Mark has helped me a lot, I have no intention of hurting him. You couldn't even if you tried, Nolan said with a faint sneer. He has Viltrumite blood, if he wants to be, he's invincible on this planet. If you don't want me around Mark, I can go back to the GDA. No, Nolan's eyes narrowed, I want you near Mark. Leon stayed silent. I want you to teach him how to deal with criminals and if possible, Nolan's voice lowered. Teach him to kill? Leon's pupils tightened by a fraction, so that was why Omnidad had come. Nolan understood that Mark's worldview was too different from his own. He also knew he no longer had enough time to slowly guide him as a father and make him accept the Viltrumite invasion plan. So he had chosen Leon. He wanted Leon to stain Mark's hands with blood, to crack that naive kindness open from the side. Can I ask why? Leon asked, pretending not to know. Nolan answered smoothly. To help him abandon childish illusions, to make him a hero who understands the bigger picture, not some nobody who spends his days punching street thugs. He leaned in slightly. Do what I say and there won't be a problem between us. His gaze turned colder. And remember this, I'm much stronger than you, you might be a threat to other people but to me you're barely above an insect. Yes, sir, Nolan stared at him. He had a stomach full of threats ready, he had even prepared a few brutal ways to make his point. If Leon showed even the slightest resistance, Nolan would act, but Leon's clean obedience left him with nothing to use. It felt like punching cotton. A rush of air came from below. Mark was coming back. Do not tell anyone about this conversation, Nolan said. Okay, sir. Good, smart choice. Nolan turned and flew down to meet Mark. Halfway there, he suddenly came back. One more thing. You're not allowed to see Mark this week. Don't show up near my house either. Go wherever you want. Nolan's expression darkened. Mark is spending too much time with you, time he should be spending with his family. Leon stared at him. Was this old bastard jealous? Was that the real reason he came here today? And once Cecil finds a way to send you back to your universe, you leave, Nolan said. I don't want an unstable variable living on my planet long-term. No problem, sir. Nolan, looking faintly annoyed, flew down again to meet Mark. After he left, Leon stayed in place and thought for a while. He had watched the Invincible animated series several times before. He remembered the broad plot clearly, but the exact timeline was fuzzy. After all, who watch superhero shows with their brain fully turned on? According to the plot, Nolan should make his move soon. Leon, Mark flew over, full of excitement. Behind him came his unhappy-looking father. I handed the criminals over to the police, Mark said. They said we did better than most superheroes in the city. That was all because of you. He kept going, words spilling out. And some reporters interviewed me. They asked what my hero name was, but I still haven't picked one. Also, yeah, my outfit really does look awful. All right, Leon said, we can talk while we fly. The three of them headed toward Chicago. Along the way, Mark completely ignored his father and kept chatting with Leon, looking happier than he had all day. Nolan hated it. If he had heat vision, he would have burned a hole through Leon with his glare. Unable to keep enduring the murderous stare behind him, Leon cleared his throat and cut Mark off. Mark, I need to go back to the GDA for something. Mark blinked. You did well today. When you go out as a hero again, remember the two things I told you. Leon looked at him seriously. And you need to purge that personal heroism virus the education system planted in your brain. Mark stared. If you want to be a real hero, saving people matters more than looking cool in a fight. Leon continued before Mark could interrupt. As long as your thinking stays clear, you'll figure out what to do on your own. You won't need other people dragging you around by the nose. My God, Mark said, looking half shocked and half disgusted. You sound like Socrates giving his last words. Then his eyes narrowed. Did my dad say something to you? Mark turned toward Nolan. Nolan, who had been glaring at Leon, looked away. I didn't. Dad, you said you wouldn't interfere. I didn't. Mark stopped in midair, ready to argue. Leon cut in fast. Your father didn't say anything. He only told me the GDA found a lead connected to the person who kidnapped me. I need to go check it out. There, Nolan said without changing expression. I would never lie to you. Oh, Mark's face softened with guilt. Sorry, I was being sensitive. Father and son hugged. It was warm, tender, almost touching. While embracing Mark, Nolan gave Leon a look over his shoulder, a very clear look, get lost. Then I'll head out first, Leon said. I'll probably be back in about a week, see you at school. Remember to ask for leave for me. He didn't wait for Mark to answer. He turned and flew away. Once the straight-line distance between him and Mark passed 2 kilometers, the teleport bracelet began flashing. 3 minutes later, whoosh, a flash of white light swallowed him. The next second, Leon appeared inside the Global Defense Agency's high-security prison. Well, look at that, someone said. Fresh meat. Across from Leon's cell, the Mahler twins were eating chicken pot pie and staring at him with ugly smiles. Before they could say anything else, Leon absorbed the laser barrier sealing his cell and walked out like he owned the place. The Mahler twins froze. One of them dropped his pie. Alarms screamed. Special forces poured in. Alloy doors slammed shut one layer after another, sealing the prison completely. A storm of laser beams fired at Leon. He absorbed every last one. You people know what my powers are, right? Leon said, and you still used laser weapons on me. He looked around. What were you afraid bullets might hurt my feelings? Cancel the alarm. Repeat, cancel the alarm. Cecil's voice came through the speakers. The sirens stopped. The alloy doors opened. A moment later, Cecil stormed in with Donald at his side, visibly annoyed. You were out for a few days and you're already back. We haven't even finished building a facility that can hold you. He jabbed a finger toward Leon. Stay there, I'm calling Mark to pick you up right now. No need, Leon cut him off. Debbie isn't happy that I'm taking up her son's family time. I need to stay away from their house for about a week. Give me a room, a prison cell is fine, the inmates here seem interesting. He glanced at the Mahler twins. Also, any leads on the person who kidnapped me? Debbie. Cecil wasn't stupid. He understood immediately. He didn't expose the lie. He just turned and motioned for Leon to follow. Since you're here, you can do some work for the GDA. Cecil started walking. Our satellite detected a special entity in the Levant region. She's releasing electromagnetic waves similar to what you emitted during your explosion. Leon's expression changed. Cecil looked back. It might be connected to whoever kidnapped you. In an instant, Leon's whole presence sharpened. The lie he had casually made up in front of Mark had somehow become real. His eyes turned vicious. Tell me exactly where she is. Global Defense Agency Command Center. Leon skimmed through the file in his hands while Donald gave him the mission brief. The target is in the Syrian desert, southern dune belt, near a multi-border zone. Donald's tone stayed professional, but his face was tense. 3 GDA-affiliated superheroes have already disappeared in that area. Due to political reasons, we can't send more heroes in, especially not the Guardians or Nolan. Leon looked up from the file. That's sensitive. Aren't you worried I'll blow the place up too? Donald paused. A flicker of fear crossed his face. Your current status is an escaped prisoner who broke out of GDA custody. If something goes wrong, it'll be difficult to trace it back to us. He hesitated, then added, honestly, if it were up to me, I would never send you. But right now, you're the only one capable of absorbing thermal radiation and stopping the target from exploding. Leon nodded. That made sense. Anyone stronger than him couldn't go. Anyone weaker would either die or fail to stop the blast. He kept reading. According to the GDA's satellite reports, the target most likely had the same type of powers as him, but at a much lower intensity. Conservative estimate, about half his output. Bait? Leon asked. Yes, Donald said. Most likely bait meant to lure you in. Cecil walked over. He had just come back from a soundproof room after making a call. That's why your mission isn't to capture the target, Cecil said. Your job is to avoid direct contact as much as possible and make sure you can stop an explosion the moment it starts. He looked Leon in the eye. In 12 hours, we'll use diplomatic channels to assemble a proper hero team for the arrest. Understood. Leon put on the comm earpiece and locator. Once everything was ready, he flew out of the Pentagon and headed toward the target at sonic speed. Donald watched him vanish. Sir, I don't think he'll keep his distance. I know. Cecil stared at the violet ion trail Leon left in the sky. He won't be able to resist. 7 hours later, Leon arrived above the target zone. During the trip, he had tried accelerating by venting energy from his body. It hadn't fully worked. But by accident, he discovered a new trick. By heating the air around himself and creating a thermal pressure difference, he could perform short bursts of acceleration, emergency stops, and sharp turns. A new air combat technique. My powers still have so much room to grow. He hovered under the blazing sun above a desert swallowed by wind and sand. Leon looked down with a complicated expression. Red-brown crescent dunes shifted in the wind. Under the force of the gale, the sand rippled like flowing water. Abandoned military outposts dotted the landscape. Mine warning signs stood everywhere. War, even in a world with superheroes, humans still couldn't stop killing each other. Once Nolan leaves this planet, I'll end every war on Earth, then famine, then crime, then black markets, then terminal diseases. Mark, Cecil, whoever. If anyone gets in my way, I'll kill them all. And if I fail, fine, I'll treat it as practice for fixing my own universe. Leon was still lost in thought when several beams of heat vision shot toward him from the distance. They were completely different from his. Leon's heat vision was mainly made of destructive shortwave light, like X-rays and ultraviolet rays. He only mixed invisible near-infrared light around the 750 nanometer range to make it look intimidating. The heat vision attacking him now was different. It was mostly long-wave light around 10 micrometers, far-infrared lasers. These infrared composite beams were nowhere near as powerful as Leon's, but they were more than enough to kill ordinary people. Worse, they were almost invisible to the naked eye. No wonder 3 heroes died here. Too bad for the attacker, Leon had thermal vision. In his sight, those orange-red beams were painfully obvious, even against the hot desert. Leon absorbed 4 incoming beams instantly. The remaining 2 suddenly bent at 90-degree angles and almost hit him. That precise. At the last second, Leon absorbed them too. His face turned serious. Right now, he could only bend his heat vision slightly, using several small curves to create a turn. Whoever this was had better control than him. Leon looked toward the source of the attack. A figure wrapped head to toe in a cloak hovered 1 kilometer away. When the figure noticed Leon looking, they paused for a few seconds, then sank into the dunes. Trying to bait me? Leon sneered. Instead of following, he shot upward and pulled away fast. Cecil, I found the killer. They're using invisible far-infrared attacks. Copy that. I'll have the follow-up team carry infrared detection equip. Hiss, hiss. A violent magnetic disturbance tore through the earpiece's circuits. Leon ripped it out and threw it away before it exploded in his ear. You can't run. The next instant, a shockwave of heat erupted from the ground beneath him. 100,000 Kelvin. It swallowed everything within a 500-meter radius without discrimination. The electromagnetic pulse made Leon's electromagnetic senses scream. The sensory backlash almost knocked him unconscious on the spot. He forced himself steady. Before the biomagnetic field around his body failed, Leon created a thermal pressure difference and blasted out of the EMP zone at high speed. But 2 violet red beams followed right behind the shockwave, chasing him, one attack after another. Whoever this was had experience killing superpowered people. You still haven't realized lasers don't work on me? Then his expression changed. Wait, that's not a laser. He couldn't absorb it. The violet red beam carried a rainbow shimmer of silicon vapor. It punched through Leon's weakened biomagnetic field and tore straight through his heart. Leon lost consciousness. He crashed down into the dunes, carving several deep pits through the sand. A cloaked figure walked toward him. How did the plasma feel, Angstrom's dog? The voice was female. You send one, I kill one. She stopped beside Leon and pulled back her hood to inspect the body. She was a short-haired girl around Leon's apparent age with Latina features. Her eyes were deep purple, almost like gemstones, but they were filled with blood and something feral. The moment she reached toward Leon, frost spread across her hand. What? She recoiled in shock. You set the trap well, Leon said. The corpse that should have been dead suddenly opened its eyes. His gaze was cold. But you made one fatal mistake. The girl froze. You shouldn't fight me somewhere this full of thermal radiation. In an instant, the desert within a 1-kilometer radius went from daylight to night. A massive amount of thermal radiation flooded into Leon's body. The fatal wound in his chest healed in seconds. Extreme cold began devouring the area and every living thing inside it. The Latina girl instinctively released a flood of thermal radiation from her body to resist the freezing temperature. Her panic lasted only a moment, then her blood-tear-filled eyes locked onto Leon. I killed you once, I can kill you again. Leon raised one finger toward her. Try. The moment he spoke, violet red plasma erupted from her eyes and collided with the beam fired from Leon's fingertip. Without his eyes limiting the output, the energy inside Leon's body transformed into something far more terrifying. Gamma rays. A destructive force found in nuclear reactions, supernovae, and the interiors of black holes. 50 trillion joules, equivalent to 12 kilotons of TNT, nearly half the power of the Hiroshima bomb. The gamma ray erased the plasma from the girl's eyes in an instant. When light returned to the world, Leon stood up and brushed sand from his clothes. The girl was on the ground, paralyzed with fear. At the last moment, Leon had bent the beam and blasted a hole through the ozone layer instead of vaporizing her. Kill me, her voice shook. Kill me, I don't want to be taken back for experiments. No one's taking you back for experiments, Leon said. My name is Leon. I was also kidnapped from a parallel universe by Angstrom. Leon? The girl's eyes widened. You're the escaped subject, Leon. Why are you here? Her clothes had been vaporized in the fight. Only now did Leon notice the blisters scattered across her body. Virus carrier, so she really was a trap. Run, she rasped. I will, but I'm taking you to the GDA with me. No, I have a virus designed specifically for you. I noticed. Leon looked at the blisters. But I'm pretty sure no virus survives temperatures above 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. I just need to sterilize my... The girl shook her head hard and crawled away from him. Not that kind of virus. Leon frowned. Then what kind? Talk clearly. A mimetic virus, she said, voice breaking. It spreads through electromagnetic waves. It was made for subjects like us. Blood slid from Leon's nose to the corner of his mouth. The rusty taste spread over his tongue. Leon touched his face, dazed. Only then did he realize blood was pouring from all 7 openings in his head. Shit. He collapsed. 4 hours later, Donald arrived with a superhero team and found Leon and the Latina girl in a trench between the dunes. The girl was actively feeding Leon thermal radiation, barely keeping him alive as he vomited until there was almost nothing left inside him. He's infected, sir, Donald said into his earpiece. Cecil's voice came back immediately. Expected. Does the virus work on him? Donald looked at Leon, very pale. Very still, barely breathing. Very well. He swallowed. He's dying. Good, Cecil said. Bring him and the pathogen back together. Chicago streets. A red laser flashed across the city and punched through 200-meter towers, throwing dust and smoke into the air. Woohoo, huh. Mark, now wearing his new yellow and blue suit, heard the blast while soaring freely overhead. He turned and flew toward the noise. Down on the street, police officers fired non-stop at a supervillain whose left arm had been modified into a laser cannon. Bullets hammered into the villain's body, then dropped off him like rain. They didn't even make him take a step back. Guys, the villain pointed at the 2 buildings he had just pierced. Don't you think you're punching a little above your weight here? I just shot through 2 towers. No one answered. The police had no real way to deal with superhumans, so they kept firing blindly. Fine, you asked for it. The villain fired once. 5 or 6 police cars exploded. He grinned and turned his cannon toward the officers on the other side. Then a figure came screaming through the air. If he's weaker than me, take him into the sky. If he's stronger, move the battlefield. If that doesn't work, stall him. Mark kept repeating Leon's advice under his breath. Is he stronger or weaker than me? He shrugged mid-flight. Whatever. He grabbed the villain in both arms. After last time, Mark knew better than to hold back. He pushed with everything he had and drove the man straight up, nearly into the exosphere. The villain screamed until the air vanished. Then he passed out from suffocation. Done. Mark flew back down and handed the unconscious villain over to the police. The officers erupted into cheers and applause. Kid, the police chief said sincerely as the villain was restrained and loaded into a Supermax transport vehicle, you're the smartest, most responsible superhero we've seen in years. Mark scratched his head, embarrassed by the praise. Most heroes we meet don't care about civilian damage, the chief continued. They punch villains through apartment buildings. They use other people's cars as weapons. They cause explosion after explosion on highways. His expression darkened. Some of these so-called heroes kill almost as many people as the villains. Then he looked back at Mark. But you're different, you're a real hero. 7 days after the desert operation, the Pentagon, Global Defense Agency, Leon lay in a hospital bed drinking hot cocoa and reading the newspaper. The teleport bracelet Cecil had made him wear had been transferring his excess power into nuclear plants across the country for storage. After he got sick, that stored energy was converted back into thermal radiation and pumped into his body. Right before the reserves ran dry, Leon successfully healed from the mimetic virus. The result was clear. His body was even more terrifying than the virus designer had expected. You now owe the GDA one hell of an electric bill, Cecil had told him, so study hard. Once you prove you're stable enough, you'll be working it off. So Cecil was already trying to recruit him before Nolan even wiped out the Guardians. That was good. The GDA had massive resources. Resources Leon could use to develop his powers further. He flipped through the newspaper. His calm expression slowly shifted into surprise. The front page headline read, Invincible, a true hero. Below it were several pictures of Mark carrying the criminal into the sky. I remember Mark turning every fight into a disaster, Leon muttered. But the paper says he protected civilians and caused no damage. The story had changed, only slightly, but it had changed because of him, not bad. Leon smiled and folded the newspaper. A complicated look flashed through his eyes. On one hand, logic told him changing the known storyline would make it harder to use his future knowledge for personal gain. On the other hand, seeing things move in a better direction made him genuinely happy. I'm not human anymore, and I'm not weak. He got out of bed and started getting dressed. I don't need to ignore things I hate just to chase tiny benefits. He buttoned his shirt. I'm going to live for myself. The teleport bracelet had been destroyed when he was hit by the EMP, and the replacement hadn't arrived yet. At full strength, the Pentagon, filled with all kinds of interference equipment, looked almost transparent to Leon's thermal vision and magnetic senses, like a cake sitting behind a glass window. He moved easily through the building, jumped down an elevator shaft, and landed in the high-security prison at the bottom level. Look, clone, he's back. The Mahler twins, along with the prison's many strange and vicious inmates, crowded near their cell doors and stared at Leon. Pretty boy, one octopus-like inmate covered in teeth hissed. You can shut down the lasers, right? If you don't want your family getting hurt, you'd better let me. AAAH. Leon used the lowest setting of his heat vision and slowly melted the creature into a puddle of meat. No alarm went off. Leon had already disabled it. Then he picked a few more lucky inmates at random and roasted them into charcoal from a distance with thermal radiation. Only then did the other prisoners shrink back into their cells, too scared to shout anymore. Damn, thought we could scare the kid into letting us out. You tried to scare a superhuman who shoots energy beams from his eyes. Now we know which one of us is the clone. Shut up, you're the clone. Leon stopped in front of a special cell. It was wrapped in dense lead alloy, completely blocking his thermal vision. The interference pylons inside also kept his electromagnetic sense from entering. This had to be the special containment cell Cecil mentioned, the one they were building for him. Uncomfortable. Leon cut around, opening through the cell wall with 3,000-degree heat vision. The moment he stepped into the dark cell, a girl screamed, "Don't come in." I just want to be alone. It's me, Leon said. Leon, the guy who was also kidnapped from a parallel universe. He stepped inside calmly. I just wanted to talk and thank you for saving me back there. Silence. Then she said, close the door. Leon used heat vision to weld the collapsed alloy wall back into place. Then he found a chair and sat down. Through thermal vision, he saw the Latina girl from the desert curled in a corner, hugging a pillow. What's your name? He asked. Cecilia, she said. And don't call me kid, I'm almost 30. Leon almost laughed, so he wasn't the only one who had been de-aged. That also proved indirectly that they were both products of the same experiment. After a quiet moment, Cecilia spoke again. Homelander, interesting superhero name. Leon's eyes widened. His hands started trembling before he could stop them. You know that name? Yeah, Cecilia said. The boys, I watched it once when I had nothing better to do. Homelander, A-Train Butcher. Leon stared at her, his voice came out tight. You're from my universe? Maybe, Cecilia said. Tell me about your world. Leon thought for a moment. It's a lot like this one, a mess, but no superheroes, no supervillains. You mean your world has no people with powers? Right. Then why is it still a mess? She sounded genuinely shocked, confused even. Leon was just as confused by her question. Why wouldn't it be? You think humans stop killing each other just because no one can shoot lasers from their eyes? He leaned back in the chair. I lived in a peaceful country. I never went to a war zone myself. For all I know, my world might be even more chaotic than this one. His words hit her like a hammer. Shock crossed Cecilia's face. Then disbelief, doubt, denial, finally a dull kind of despair. What about you? Leon asked. What's your world like? I'm guessing it has people with powers. Yeah, Cecilia hugged the pillow tighter. Her eyes flickered with unease. I came from a world overrun by people with powers. They were strong beyond anything science could explain. Her voice trembled. By the time I was kidnapped and brought here, those superpowered tyrants had already killed 3 billion people worldwide. She swallowed hard, God, and now I'm one of them. Her hands went to her hair. She grabbed it again and again, breathing faster, face twisting until the pain on it looked almost physical. Leon's expression shifted. He knew that look, trauma response. He had looked almost the same in front of Cecil. The people who kidnapped me cut me open like a lab rat, Cecilia said. They cut off my eyelids and put me under sun lamps. For 3 whole months, I was treated like an animal. Leon wanted to comfort her. He wasn't good at that. So he told her the truth. My situation was close to yours. That bastard roasted me in a furnace and froze me in liquid nitrogen. He tortured me for 3 years. 3 years? Cecilia slowly pulled herself back together. She wiped the tears from her face, guilt creeping into her voice. I'm sorry I attacked you. Can't blame you, Leon said. When I first escaped, I did something pretty similar. He paused. Do you know who did this, Angstrom? I'm not sure. Cecilia shook her head. When I was on the operating table, I heard the person dissecting me talking to someone named Angstrom. He was definitely the one who kidnapped me. Her fingers tightened around the pillow, but the one who tortured me afterward was someone else. She looked at him. What about you? Do you know who imprisoned us? Leon shook his head. No, my information is about the same as yours. I see. Cecilia's face filled with regret. Maybe I shouldn't have killed everyone who came after me. Came after you, Leon frowned. So you weren't deliberately released as bait to infect me. I was, she looked away, but I came out too early. Cecil recovered the cryopod they used to store me. According to the program in the pod, I was supposed to be released 2 months later after my body fully became a virus incubator. She glanced at him. I think waking up early is part of why you managed to beat the mimetic virus. So that's what happened. Leon nodded a little uneasy. Looks like luck had played a bigger role than he wanted to admit. The two of them sat in silence for 15 minutes, then Cecilia spoke softly. Do you miss home? A little. Leon's voice carried a faint heaviness he couldn't quite explain. In my world, I was a lawyer, also an orphan, no family, no real home, just work day and night. He stared at the floor. Sometimes I forgot why I was working. Why I was so tired all the time, why I was even alive. A bitter smile touched his mouth. I thought leaving that world might be better, but now, I actually want to go back to that ordinary, boring lawyer life. It's nice, Cecilia whispered, knowing I'm not the only one who feels that way. She looked at him with a faint, broken smile. My world is hell sliding into the abyss. My family's gone. I know going back would be worse than death. Her voice lowered. But I still can't stop wanting to go back. She paused, then forced a lighter tone. What are you going to do next? Adapt to my powers, then get revenge. Leon looked at her. Want to help? We use our powers very differently. We can learn from each other. Cecilia hugged the pillow again. Purple light flickered in the darkness. Leon sensed the voltage inside the interference pylons around them becoming unstable. After a long while, she finally answered. I will, but not now. I need time alone. She gave him a weak smile. Maybe by then my hero name will be Starlight or Maeve. Your world's The Boys has those too, right? Of course, why ask? Because I don't understand it, Cecilia frowned. The Boys is a comedy that glorifies powered people. It makes normal people think superhumans care what they think, that you can negotiate with them, even outsmart and punish them. Her voice turned colder. In reality, none of that is possible. She looked at him. If your world has no superhumans, why would it create something like that? Leon was silent for a second. In my world, that show is a thriller. It shows how twisted and cruel ordinary people can become once they get powers. Wow. They talked for a while about The Boys. When the conversation finally wound down, Leon stood to leave. I should go, I've got things to do. Cecilia looked reluctant, but she still nodded goodbye. See you, come visit sometimes, okay? I really need someone to talk to. I will. Leon paused near the sealed wall. One more thing, do you know Invincible? What's that? Nothing, a friend's hero name. So Cecilia's universe either never had Invincible as a story or she had never watched it. Good, that meant he was still the only one who knew where this timeline was heading. Leon left the high-security prison and returned to the GDA medical department. He was a little confused. He had made a lot of noise down there, yet Cecil hadn't shown up. Move, everyone move. A large group of armed soldiers and medical staff rushed through the hall, guarding a magnetic levitation stretcher as it shot toward the emergency ward. What happened? Through thermal vision and magnetic sensing, Leon saw the patient on the stretcher, barely alive, chest bones almost completely shattered. Leon stepped into a nearby room and waited for the team to pass. Only then did he see the man on the stretcher, Nolan, dying. So that's why no one came for me, Leon thought. The Guardians are dead and Nolan's badly injured. A little sloppy. But for this world's government, not surprising. Then a dark thought took root in Leon's mind. If he killed Nolan now, if he killed Mark II, this planet would be his. The thought grew louder, his fist clenched. Then slowly he let it go. I will defeat Nolan. His eyes hardened, but not now. When he tears off the mask and starts slaughtering people, I'll face him head-on. I'll beat him fair and square, or he'll kill me. With his thoughts settled, Leon returned to his room. If he remembered correctly, not long after Nolan fell unconscious, a major alien invasion would break out in the city center. That would be his chance. His official debut in front of the world. Fast footsteps approached outside. Cecil shoved the door open and pointed at Leon. I know what you did downstairs. We'll deal with that later. For now, stay in this room and don't move. He turned and left. Lead alloy walls and electromagnetic interference pylons immediately sealed the entire hospital room. The equipment wasn't strong enough to block Leon's senses. Still, he didn't resist. He lay back on the bed, closed his eyes, and rested. Piece by piece, he replayed the fight with Cecilia in his mind. About 24 hours later, Leon sensed Mark and Debbie arriving at the hospital. Dad, oh my God, Nolan. Mark walked into the GDA medical wing with one arm around his anxious mother. Nolan is receiving top-level treatment, Donald said. The Global Defense Agency's medical technology is far beyond anything available in normal hospitals. We're not in the mood for a tour, Donald, Debbie snapped. Sorry, Debbie. Donald understood how scared she was and wisely stopped talking. My dad never told me you guys had this much going on inside, Mark said. It's classified, Donald replied. We've worked with heroes like your father for years to protect global peace. He glanced at Mark. Frankly, the reason we never brought you inside before was because you weren't ready, but I think the day we work with Invincible may be coming very soon. Debbie shot him a furious look. Donald immediately turned away and shut up. They reached Nolan's room. Debbie and Mark rushed to the bed. Dad, oh my God, Nolan. Mark stared at his unconscious father, wounded so badly he barely looked real, pain twisted in his chest, then came anger. After asking about Nolan's condition, Mark forced his voice steady. Who did this? We don't know. Cecil stepped out of the shadows in the corner. Not yet, but we'll find out, and when we do, whoever did this will end up worse than your father. He extended a hand. Cecil Stedman, director of the Global Defense Agency. Didn't get the chance to properly introduce myself last time. Mark shook his hand. Cecil nodded. I've read the papers these last few days. You're growing fast, Mark. Before Debbie could turn her anger on him, Cecil told them the truth. The Guardians of the Globe had been brutally murdered, all of them. We don't know why your father was at Guardians HQ last night, Cecil said. My personal guess, whoever killed them lured him there. Why? Mark asked. Why? Good question. Cecil paced the room. Every supervillain alive wants Omni-Man and the Guardians dead. If we start digging, we'll find 10,000 suspects with motives. He stopped near the window. We're suppressing the news right now to keep bad actors from making a move, but the truth will leak eventually. I wanted you both to hear it first. Debbie wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes, then she demanded a folding bed so she could stay and take care of Nolan. Cecil tried to talk her out of it. It didn't work. Donald quickly stepped in. Of course, Debbie, we'll arrange it. Not long after Debbie's bed was handled, Donald received an urgent report. Sir, he said, voice tight, there's an attack happening in downtown Chicago. Hostiles have heavy weapons, multiple casualties. What do we do? Of course they pick now, Cecil muttered. The superhero division has no one left to send. He and Donald quickly left the room. Mark, who had been listening from the side, looked at his unconscious father. His expression hardened. He took Nolan's hand and whispered, Don't worry, Dad. While you're down, I'll do my best to handle your job. Then Mark turned and left the room. Debbie, completely focused on Nolan, didn't notice her son walk away. I can help. As Cecil and Donald hurried toward command, Leon leaned against the door with his arms folded. He had already melted through the alloy door with heat vision and had clearly been waiting for them. I can sense the invaders in the city center. They're using laser weapons. He looked at Cecil. I can stop this without breaking a sweat. You want to help? Cecil pointed at him sharply. Then go back to your room and stay there. Until I figure out what to do with you, don't cause problems. Leon shrugged and stepped back. He wasn't in a hurry. The aliens would return. Sooner or later, he'd get his chance to appear. Donald, Cecil said after they walked away. Was he right about the laser weapons? I don't know, sir. The brief hasn't. Donald pressed a hand to his earpiece and paused. Then he nodded. The attackers are using electromagnetic wave-based weapons. We can't confirm if they're lasers yet. Send the reserve team first. If those kids can't hold, then we send him. A few minutes later, wearing his invincible suit, Mark followed the black smoke to the attack site. The moment he reached the square, he froze. Rows of aliens in blue and white armor marched out of dark red portals. Multi-legged tanks followed behind them. They fired at every human they saw, leaving fire, rubble, and bodies behind. Chicago police hid behind squad cars with tiny pistols, firing back with everything they had. It was useless. The aliens set up cover, then a tank fired. The cops in their cars disappeared in a spray of metal and flesh. Mark's palms started sweating. Stay calm, Mark, he whispered to himself. Focus, just focus. He took a breath. Go. He dove down, flew over the fleeing crowd, and landed in the square. Stop, get away from the people, and he didn't finish. A storm of lasers filled the air. People around Mark were torn apart before his eyes. One laser ripped through a civilian and struck Mark, blasting him backward. He hit the ground hard. Blood covered him. His ears rang so badly the world turned muffled. Oh shit. Mark touched the warm blood on his face. There were pieces of flesh mixed in it. Panic swallowed him. For a moment he couldn't even stand. He watched civilians burst apart one after another and finally understood. This wasn't street crime. This wasn't anything like before. Get up, he muttered. I have to get up. Nearby, an old woman crawled across the ground. An alien raised its weapon toward her. No, strength surged through Mark. He grabbed a chunk of concrete and flew forward, smashing the alien away. It's okay, I've got you. Are you hurt? He scooped the old woman into his arms and tried to fly her out. Before he even got clear of the ground, a laser hit him again. He crashed into a dirt pit. No, 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 oh my God. Mark pushed himself up and looked down. The old woman's arms and legs were broken. Shock and guilt hit him so hard he froze, still holding her. An alien tank turned its cannon toward him. Just before it fired, a pink barrier appeared in front of Mark. The shell deflected, shot into a nearby high-rise and blew part of the building apart. "I don't know who you are," a girl shouted, "but you need to leave. Now." A pink figure flew into the battlefield. Mark recognized her immediately. Adam Eve, then robot Rex Splode and Duplicate arrived, standing between the alien army and the civilians. Their sudden appearance caught the invaders off guard. Under Robot's comm commands, the alien advance temporarily stalled. "You," Eve shouted at Mark while blocking incoming fire. "Take her to a hospital, we've got this." "You're Adam Eve, what go?" Her shout snapped Mark back to himself. With the aliens focused on the teen team, Mark flew away with the injured woman as fast as he could, heading toward the Pentagon. "Your intent was good, Eve," Robot said, "but I'm not certain we can handle them." 4 teenagers weren't enough. Their attack was quickly suppressed. The alien army regrouped and began firing from every direction, pinning the teen team down. "Guys," Rex shouted, "I'm running out of change here." He was the first to fall. After throwing his last handful of coins, an explosion knocked him off his feet. "They're killing me faster than I can split." Duplicate was next. Once the laser fire pinned her down, the aliens rushed her in close combat and crushed her clones one after another. Smoke poured from Robot's body. Eve was barely holding, desperately raising shields against attacks from all sides. The 4 of them were on the edge of collapse. Then a multi-legged tank aimed directly at them. Cecil's voice came through the channel. "Homelander, you're cleared to deploy." Leon smiled. "Finally." A blue-purple glow fell from the sky like a meteor and slammed into the battlefield. Homelander had arrived. "What the hell, new enemy?" Rex shouted. "I suspect he's reinforced." Robot began, then smoke burst from inside his body and he shut down on the spot. The aliens noticed Leon too. A flood of near-infrared lasers fired toward him. Leon erased them with a single thought. Then the alien soldiers' guns and tanks were shredded from the inside by a violent magnetic surge, collapsing into smoking scrap. "Get off this planet." Scarlet heat vision burst from his eyes. The beams swept across the battlefield like a farmer's scythe through wheat, cutting aliens and their high-tech cover in half. Leon gathered thermal radiation into a blazing sphere in front of the portal. Every alien trying to retreat was swallowed by the light. In less than 2 minutes, every invader in the square was gone, not one remained. Leon sent the thermal sphere through the portal. The portal collapsed. Just like that, the crisis ended. It happened so fast the teen team could barely process it. Leon landed on the ground. Hands clasped behind his back, he looked around at the devastation without expression, as if wiping out the aliens had been no different from stepping on ants. The 3 remaining teen team members stared at him in shock. "You okay?" Leon asked. "I'm Homelander, GDA Special Response Officer." Rex swallowed. He pointed at the smoking robot. "Speaking for the group here, first, thanks for saving our lives. Second, I think you accidentally killed one of our teammates." "Oh," Leon looked calmly at the malfunctioning robot. "Then I'm sorry. I'm sure you can repair him later." He turned toward the burning streets and the nearby buildings on the verge of collapse. "Small talk's over, our work isn't done. Until rescue crews arrive, there's still plenty to handle." Leon pointed at the spreading fires. Then at the damaged towers groaning under their own weight. "Move." Mark escorted the old woman to the Pentagon's underground medical wing. Covered in blood, he dropped to his knees beside Nolan's unconscious body. "I tried." He buried his face in his hands and broke down. Debbie followed the trail of blood and found him there, her heart twisted. She pulled her broken son into her arms. "I tried to be a hero like Dad," Mark sobbed. "But it's okay," Debbie whispered, holding him tighter. "You did everything you could." That night, Mark went home alone. He stripped off his suit, washed the blood from his body, and lay in bed, unable to sleep. After a long hesitation, he opened his phone and started scrolling. The moment the app loaded, he shot upright. Every social platform and news outlet had the same headline at the top. "Captain of the Cosmos." Homelander Mark stared at the photo under the title and shouted, "Leon, downtown Chicago, the square hit by the alien attack." Leon stood pitch black beneath a storm of cameras, speaking to reporters from every direction. "Mr. Homelander, did you choose that hero name because you love your homeland, America?" A reporter shoved a microphone toward his face. Leon looked at him. "First, let's make something clear. I'm not from Earth." The reporters went quiet. "I was born from the first light of the Big Bang," Leon said. "I only stayed on this planet out of goodwill to help humanity." He looked across the crowd. "My title means I want every planet in the universe to become a place worth calling home." Another reporter jumped in. "Do you plan to apply for American citizenship? After all, America is the greatest." Leon stared at him. What the hell was this guy? His eyes dropped to the badge. Fox News. Ah, that explained it. Leon melted the man's microphone and turned to the others. Next, the reporters shouted over each other, faces red with desperation. Leon felt like he had wandered into a tropical jungle and been surrounded by loud, savage birds. In the darkness, his face was full of exhaustion and disgust. "Sir," a woman shouted, "so far this attack has left over 1,000 people dead or injured. What's your view on that?" Leon's eyes sharpened. Finally, a real question. He turned toward the female reporter. She looked strikingly similar to Monica Geller from Friends. "You come here." The woman's face lit up. She pushed through the crowd and reached him. She was around Leon's height, maybe 5'7". In a crowd where half the reporters seemed close to 6'3", she looked small, but the way she shoved through them was like watching a tank roll through traffic. Frontline reporters really did have special skills. "I'm Lois Kenfield, Global Daily." "Kenfield," Leon said, taking her hand. "That's a good question." He leaned toward her microphone. No one could have predicted this alien attack, but many of the lives lost today could have been saved. The reporters held their breath. "I condemn this country's administrators, your government, as humans call it." A ripple passed through the crowd. Take today as an example. The first reaction of many victims during the attack was to pull out their phones and record. They died for nothing. His voice stayed calm. "This city has no proper shelters, no civil defense bunkers. In most countries, these are basic public facilities. Because this city lacked them, civilians had nowhere safe to go." He glanced toward the line of burned-out police cars. The police weren't properly trained either. They tried to fight alien invaders with handguns instead of evacuating civilians until superheroes arrived. Leon looked straight into the camera. "Your country suffers superhuman terrorist attacks every day, yet your education system, police departments, and city infrastructure are not prepared for them at all." He paused. "Superheroes are not gods. If your government can't handle the basics, even 10 more people like me won't save everyone." The reporters had thought Leon was going to be some naive alien mascot, barely able to speak properly. They had not expected him to publicly tear into the government with clear logic and sharp words. Some networks cut the live feed immediately. Others surged forward with even more excitement, desperate for more explosive comments. "Do you have any other criticisms? Are you dissatisfied with the current administration? Did you bring the aliens here?" A real exclusive was right in front of them. The reporters dropped the polite act and started pressuring Leon the way they would pressure any ordinary public figure. If he lost his temper or answered the wrong question, they would stick to him like leeches until he said or did something they could twist. Leon blinked. Every camera and microphone around him, except Kenfield's, melted and died. At Kenfield's station, the production room erupted. Ratings. "Ratings are up 800%. Kenfield, keep him talking." Kenfield's face flushed. She was about to ask another question when Leon raised his hand. "I like this young lady," Leon said. Her question was different. It carried social responsibility. He nodded to her. "In the future, I'll prioritize your interviews." Then he turned away. "But I need to leave now. Other places still need rescue work." He looked back at the cameras. "Remember what I said." Leon shot into the sky and left the square. The frustrated reporters split in two groups. Some stayed at the disaster site to keep reporting. Others chased the iron trail Leon left behind. Far away, the exhausted teen team sat slumped against a wall after hours of rescue work. "Why is nobody interviewing us?" Rex shouted. "Also, where the hell did my girlfriend go?" "Eve has school tomorrow. She already left," Robot said, now operating a replacement body. "You and Kate should go rest too. I'll handle the remaining cleanup." He looked toward the alien wreckage. "Their equipment has unusual oxidation reactions. I need to study it." "School?" Rex threw up his hands. "Guess who never went to school? Me." "Enough," Kate said, cutting him off. "I just want to go home and shower." She scrolled through her phone. Every post was about Leon. The next morning, Mark arrived at school with dark circles under his eyes. "Hey, watch where you're going, jerk." He wandered down the hall in a daze, bumping into several people without even noticing. He went straight to Leon's classroom. At the door, he found Leon sitting alone, reading. "Scatter my words among mankind like sparks from an unextinguished hearth." "Leon," Mark rushed forward and hugged him. Leon froze. After last night, American social media was split. Some people praised him as a savior. Others called him a hateful alien communist because he had talked about public disaster response. Leon had been a little worried Mark, who leaned pretty liberal, might have an issue with what he said. But now, "I saw everything," Mark said, voice shaking. "Thank you. Thank you for saving everyone." Mark started crying while holding him. Leon had no idea what to do. He stiffly patted Mark's back. "Calm down, we're at school, we're still students." "Oh, right." Mark let go, embarrassed, and scratched his head. "Sorry." "It's fine," Leon said. Yesterday was rough on you too. That wasn't a situation they should have sent a few kids to handle. Ahem. A girl's voice came from the side. Calling people your own age kids, doesn't that make you sound more like a kid? Eve stood nearby with one hand on her hip looking at Leon. You're Adam? I mean Eve. Mark recognized her immediately. She wasn't disguised at all. Eve turned and studied him for a moment before recognition clicked. Oh. You were the guy in the yellow and blue suit yesterday. Then she pointed at Leon. And I'm guessing you also know our Captain Cosmos here. What are you talking about? Leon asked. Do we know each other? He hadn't revealed his real identity to anyone yesterday. Of course, Eve said. She looked at him carefully. Maybe you don't realize it, but you make the molecular structure around you extremely stable. Leon's expression shifted slightly. As long as I'm near you, I can't use, you know, she gave him a pointed look. So you can fool other people, but not me. Leon hadn't expected his powers to affect Eve. He raised a hand, signaling her to stop. We still have time before class, let's talk somewhere else. The three of them walked toward the school field, talking about what had happened yesterday. Behind them, two of Mark's female classmates traded gossip. I heard Mark and the new guy pissed off Todd last week. Todd went crazy and beat them in the hallway. Yeah, like 50 punches. They didn't even flinch. Todd got so freaked out he's been staying home. The principal even sent a counselor. A girl walked over and caught the conversation. You're talking about Mark Grayson? Who else? Mark and the new guy, Leon Kennedy. They both got hit because of you, Amber. Amber's eyes shifted toward the field. She hadn't expected Leon to be involved too. Now she looked interested. The three of them sat down near the edge of the field. So what are you two? Eve asked Mark. Friends. It's a long story, Mark said. Technically, I'm Leon's guardian now, though most of the time it feels like our roles should be reversed. Then he looked at Eve. Also, how did I never recognize you before? It wasn't like Eve wore a real disguise. No one does, Eve said with a hint of pride. It's psychological suggestion. People only see what they expect to see. If you believe there are no superheroes at school, then you won't see a superhero at school. She was one of the prettiest girls in school, and she carried herself with that natural confidence that made Mark want to believe every word she said. Or maybe people found out a long time ago, Leon cut in calmly, and someone covered it up for you. Eve's smile stiffened. People aren't stupid, Leon continued. If your face is all over the news, no amount of psychological suggestion is going to fix that. Eve frowned. Being corrected like that felt awful. Boys at school usually smiled, flirted, and believed whatever she said. Leon just made her feel stupid. Mark sensed the awkwardness and quickly changed the subject. I follow the teen team on Instagram. That's us, Eve said, instantly recovering some of her confidence. The fourth most popular hero team in the public eye. I like you guys more than Fight Force. We're definitely better than Fight Force. Mark's praise put Eve back in control. They're the worst. The Lizard League wiped the floor with them last year. I remember that, it was on TV. Leon watched them and thought Eve really was a pure school queen. Beautiful, confident, used to the room bending around her, and thinking about her future drama with Mark, the breakups, the cheating mess, the family chaos. Leon had zero interest in getting involved. He pulled out his writing class book and started reading quietly. You're new, right? Eve asked Mark. She had seen his panic on the battlefield yesterday. Yeah, Mark admitted. My powers only awakened recently. Yesterday was my first real battle. He turned to Leon. Good thing I had a more reliable friend there to stop the crisis. It was nothing, Leon said. Your raw strength isn't below mine. Given time, you'll be able to handle scenes like that easily. Thanks, I hope so. Mark scratched his head and the gloom on his face eased a little. Hey, Eve said, annoyed. We helped too, you know. Before he showed up, the teen team was holding the line. Oh, right, thank you for saving me back then. Mark hurried to thank her. The two of them talked for a while about getting nervous and throwing up during real battles. When class was about to start, Eve stood up and smiled at Mark. My therapy rate is $250 an hour, cash or card. Mark stared at her, $250 an hour. How long would he have to work at the burger place for that? I'm kidding, Eve said, laughing. You're way too easy. Then she tilted her head. Come meet my team after school. Captain Cosmos can come too. I'd love to see their faces when they find out what he really looks like. Mark glanced at Leon. Leon shrugged, then he put on a troubled expression. Meet the teen team? I don't know. I heard they're only the fourth most popular team. Eve caught the joke and waved him off. After class, school gate, see you there, Invincible. She turned and prepared to leap off the high bleachers. Use the stairs, Leon said. Don't use powers on campus. Eve rolled her eyes and ignored him. One foot already hung in the air. As she activated her powers, Leon sensed something. Eve's ability also drew a tiny amount of thermal radiation from the space around her, and when it came to controlling thermal radiation, Leon was far stronger. Whoa, careful. Mark grabbed Eve just before she fell. She whipped around, furious. What is wrong with you? Leon looked at her coldly. Using powers on campus is irresponsible to yourself and everyone around you. I can control my powers, I don't need you babysitting me. What if a supervillain finds out? Leon asked. What if someone identifies you and attacks the school? Eve's face tightened. The fourth most popular hero team and all you care about is popularity and traffic, no sense of responsibility at all. You sound exactly like my dad. Anger flushed Eve's face. I've been fine at school this whole time. Who are you to lecture me, you liar? Mark, however, understood. He was one of the few people who knew the Guardians were dead and Nolan was unconscious. Without the Guardians, supervillains around the world were getting restless. What Leon said was very possible, and when Mark imagined his school, William, and everyone else facing an attack like downtown Chicago, his face turned serious. Leon's right, Mark said. We should be careful. Eve stared at him. What did you say? Mark panicked. I just mean the stairs don't take that long. Eve slapped his hand away. Whatever. She shot Leon one last angry look and stormed toward the stairs. Captain Cosmos, more like Captain Fraud, Captain Asshole. Mark watched her leave, looking miserable. For a teenage boy, a beautiful, confident girl like Eve was a direct hit to the heart. He was terrified she would stop talking to him. Come on, Leon said. Let's get to class. And if you're into her, I won't third wheel next time. Me? Into Eve, I'm not. Mark immediately started fumbling through a guilty denial. Leon sighed and dragged him toward the school building. Downtown Chicago, Cecil and Robot walked through the ruins. Cranes and emergency crews worked all around them. Cecil scrolled through headlines on his phone. Mysterious cosmic hero Homelander defeats alien invaders in crushing victory. An entire city cheers for Homelander. World in danger, Guardians nowhere to be seen. Homelander condemns U.S. government for lack of disaster preparedness. Cecil's brow tightened. He had made a mistake. Maybe Leon's young appearance had made Cecil subconsciously underestimate him. Before, Cecil had seen him as another superhuman hero or villain who wanted to flex his power and maybe rule the world. Now, this kid was much smarter than that. He had invented a cosmic savior background for himself, then deliberately criticized government to build public influence. Right now, Leon might be the strongest superhuman on Earth. If he was scheming, Cecil had a serious problem. If Mark hadn't interfered back then, if the Immortal had followed orders, all this trouble might have ended before it started. Then again, in the current situation, Leon's existence might not be entirely bad. Robot, Cecil said, putting the phone away, you kids did good. Thank you, Cecil. Assisting the Global Defense Agency is an honor. Robot turned his mechanical head. However, calling us kids sounds somewhat condescending. Cecil folded his arms. You think yesterday counted as a victory? Robot said nothing. It didn't, Cecil said. Do you know how many people died here? His tone hardened. If I hadn't released Homelander, that number would have climbed, and you would have died under alien fire. They are called Flaxons, Robot said calmly. What? They referred to themselves as Flaxons. I reverse-analyzed their language from battlefield recordings. Because Leon's arrival had forced him out early, Robot was frustrated. He had spent the entire night analyzing the Flaxons' language, weapons, and fatal weakness. He pointed to a multi-legged tank that had just slipped from a crane. Their remaining weapons oxidized and rusted at extreme speed. For alloy to decay to this extent, it would normally take 10 to 20 years. Robot looked back at Cecil. That means time flows much faster in the Flaxons' world than it does on Earth. Even if Homelander hadn't appeared, they would eventually have stopped attacking due to rapid aging, but before that you would have died. Cecil nodded slightly. Still, good discovery. If these aliens launch coordinated attacks in multiple locations, we only need to evacuate areas Homelander can't reach and wait for the invaders to age themselves into cancer. He paused. What about the new kid? Invincible or Homelander? Invincible, but tell me about both. Invincible has great potential, Robot said, but he isn't mentally ready to be a superhero. And Homelander, his power is too great for me to evaluate. Based on current footage and news, he is intelligent and highly competent. Robot paused. But his political involvement makes him appear overly ambitious. I'll worry about Homelander, Cecil said. Mark needs to get stronger fast. We may need both of them. What kind of situation would require both? Robot asked. Cecil didn't answer. A flash of white light swallowed him. He reappeared inside Guardians of the Globe headquarters. Blood covered the floors and walls. Dozens of GDA agents moved through the crime scene, analyzing every trace left behind. Cecil stared at the carnage. One damn mess after another. Cecil asked Donald for an update on the investigation. But whoever had murdered the Guardians of the Globe had been thorough. All surveillance was down. Forensics had hit a wall. I asked for good news, Cecil snapped. None of that is good news. Then he noticed something was wrong. The room was getting cold. His breath turned white in the air. Everyone out. Donald raised his voice. You heard the director. Out now. Once the agents left, Cecil looked around the room. Come out, I know you're here. A red-skinned demon in a beige trench coat and wide-brimmed hat appeared out of thin air, looking like some old detective dragged out of a nightmare. He crouched beside a blood stain, fully focused. Donald immediately drew his gun. Cecil pushed it down. I wasn't hiding, the demon said, moving toward another pool of blood. Humans simply cannot see me. Sir, Donald whispered, what exactly is? Damien Darkblood, Cecil said, demon detective. Darkblood suddenly appeared beside another bloodstain across the room. Donald flinched. In a low, gravelly voice, the demon recited the case and the known clues. Every detail matched what the GDA had already found. How did it? I don't know, Cecil said. Demon magic, probably. He turned to Darkblood and folded his arms. If you're here to ask whether we need a detective. I did not ask, Darkblood cut in. Do not forget, Cecil, you still owe my master a debt. Donald looked confused. Cecil understood perfectly. The hell restraints used on Leon had come from Darkblood's master. Do what you want, horned Sherlock. If you can solve this case, solve it. Sir, are you sure? Donald asked uneasily. Cecil started toward the exit. You got a problem with demons? He glanced back. I thought you were an atheist, Donald. Theoretically, I am. As Cecil turned to leave, Darkblood spoke again. Protect the drifters, Cecil. They are valuable assets to Hell. Cecil paused, then he left without a word. Donald stayed behind, nervous, standing carefully behind the demon detective, between classes. Amber, girl from Mark's class, approached him while he was putting away his books alone. Leon came down the hall and saw the two talking, so he didn't interrupt. He walked outside the school gate and waited, scrolling through his phone. Videos of him wiping out the Flaxons were everywhere. Most comments praised his decisive action and worshipped the cosmic power he had shown. A lot of people were already comparing him to other superheroes, triggering comment wars hundreds of replies deep. Guess forum flame wars exist everywhere. He kept scrolling and caught several worried comments. Most of them said the same thing. The Guardians have been missing, so who would regulate Captain Cosmos? He wasn't even from Earth. Those comments were getting torn apart by users. Omni-Man isn't from Earth either. How come nobody asks who regulates him? Defending Omni-Man seemed to be this world's online sacred rule. Once someone was accused of slandering Omni-Man, the whole internet jumped them. Leon put the phone down slightly. I did go a bit too hard against the Flaxons. In public, I should hold back more next time. Hey, Captain, a displeased female voice interrupted his thoughts. Leon put away his phone and turned. Eve stood beside him, hands on her hips. I need to talk to you. Go ahead. First, this school isn't your territory. You don't have the right to order people around or force anyone to do anything. Leon looked at her. Second, Eve continued, Mark isn't your property. The way that boy lets you control him and tries to please you is disgusting. Leon stared. What? Was she seriously calling him manipulative? He didn't argue. Arguing here would mean letting her drag him into her rhythm. When it came to drama, Leon knew very well that High had no chance against Encampus Queen. Sure, Leon said with a shrug. Sure. Eve's eyes narrowed. I don't know where you came from and I don't care how strong your powers are. I don't like your tone. Leon, Eve, Mark's voice came from outside. He rushed toward them, excitement all over his face. Then he saw the atmosphere. His smile froze. Did you two have a fight? Eve's brows were still drawn tight. Mark immediately became careful. Mark, Leon said, you go with Eve first. You're not coming. I'm going home for a bit. I'll catch up later. With that, Leon walked toward the bus stop near the school gate, leaving Mark alone with Eve. Come on, Eve said, waving him off. Ignore the buzzkill. Mark looked between them, torn, then he followed Eve. At the school gate, Amber watched the exchange and raised an eyebrow. After leaving the school area, Mark and Eve changed into their superhero suits. Eve took off first, soaring toward downtown Chicago. Mark followed. We shouldn't fly through the city, right? Mark said uneasily. Leon told me the airflow and vibrations from high-speed flight can damage buildings and permanently hurt people's hearing. Mark, Eve said, irritated, you're his guardian, have a little independence, stop doing everything he tells you. Her voice sharpened. Who does he think he is? Mark hesitated. And for the record, Eve continued, I fly through the city all the time to relax. I've never seen the news report anyone getting hurt the next day. Under Eve's strong presence, Mark didn't want her to look down on him. After struggling for a moment, he nodded. That's better, Eve grinned. Try to keep up, pretty boy. She shot toward downtown. Mark followed close behind. At first, he was nervous, but watching Eve's graceful figure move through the air pulled him in. Little by little, he forgot everything else. He smiled and chased after her at full speed. The city became their playground. The boy and girl wove between skyscrapers, dove through streets, and swept past glass towers like they owned the sky. Eve moved like a fairy underwater, always staying just far enough ahead that Mark felt like he could almost catch her. Eve, Mark turned a corner and suddenly lost sight of her. Eve, her sudden disappearance threw him off. He panicked for a second. That was all it took. He smashed through a high billboard and crashed hard onto the roof of a building, almost sliding off into the street below. Oh no, the impact snapped him back to reality. Mark climbed to the edge of the roof and looked down along the path he had flown. The street below was chaos. Traffic had stopped. People were shouting. He didn't know if he and Eve had caused it. A wave of fear and guilt rose inside him. He remembered the old woman from the alien battlefield, the one he had crippled by accident. No, 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 Mark. Eve walked over, laughing softly. You okay? It was just a billboard. Practice more and you'll get better. No. Mark turned to her, voice low. Go straight to the team base. Don't fly through the city. Eve folded her arms. Whatever. The rest of the trip was silent. The air between them went cold. They arrived at a bridge pillar on a long bridge over the water. The moment they landed, a blue-purple meteor flashed across the sky. Leon descended from high altitude in his night black form and landed silently on the bridge pillar. Inside the bridge pillar was the team's headquarters. Steel and concrete were everywhere. Shelves lined the walls. Large machines Mark and Leon didn't recognize filled the open space. When the three of them landed, Rex Splode was playing ping-pong with Duplicate, while Robot stood on an upper platform working on some equipment. This is awesome, Mark whispered, looking around. Babe, Rex opened his arms toward Eve. She walked over and the two of them kissed hard enough to make wet noises. Mark's expression turned complicated. Oh, Eve has a boyfriend. He hated himself a little. Of course she does, Mark, idiot, you should have figured that out. Hey, it's the frozen guy. Rex pointed at Mark with a dramatic voice, clearly mocking how Mark had panicked and frozen on the battlefield. Rex, Eve said, exasperated. He ignored her. We couldn't have won that fight without you. Oh wait, I just remembered you didn't help. We didn't win, Kate said, her clones looking toward Leon behind Mark. Homelander wiped them out. We participated, Rex said. That counts as winning. Leon mentally sighed, a true master of taking credit. Welcome, Invincible, Homelander, Robot said. I'm Robot. I apologize for Rex Splode's rudeness. He is unbelievably handsome, Rex said, folding his arms. Hopeless, Robot finished. And painfully rude, Eve added. All right, I don't want to continue this conversation. Rex raised his hands. Kate stepped forward. Three of her clones moved at once. One greeted Mark while the other two circled Leon. As one Kate introduced herself to Mark, the other two spoke to Leon. Welcome to our base, Homelander. You saved our lives last time. It was nothing, Leon said. You did well during the rescue work afterward. He looked at her. Have you considered switching to logistics or admin work? You could help more people that way than on the front line. His tone stayed calm. And watching your clones get used as meat shields on the battlefield makes me uncomfortable. Worry flickered across Kate's face, but she quickly covered it with a smile. I'll think about it. It's not as simple as you make it sound, but thank you for the compliment. Eve turned to Robot. Hey, did you find anything new at the attack site? The Flaxons come from a parallel universe very different from ours, Robot said. Like Homelander, however, time moves far faster in their world. He walked toward a waist-high device with two split screens. Therefore, their cellular tissue ages much faster than ours. Robot gestured to the machine. I designed this detector. If they return, it will trigger an alert immediately. He paused. Since I was forced out of the battle early last time, I hope this can serve as compensation. Sorry, Leon said. I still don't control my magnetic abilities well. I didn't mean to damage you. No apology is necessary, Robot replied. Without your help, most of us would likely be dead. Then he looked up at Leon. Would you allow me to measure the intensity of your powers? It will help me upgrade my body and reduce the chance of accidental damage from your abilities. No problem. Robot led Leon to a device shaped like a Tesla coil. Behind it, huge batteries hummed. Countless liquid nitrogen pipes ran through the floor. This device can generate an 8 Tesla reverse magnetic field to resist the magnetic pulse you produce. Can you feel it? Leon narrowed his eyes. He had sensed the field from far away. 8 Tesla. Roughly speaking, it was about 160,000 times stronger than Earth's magnetic field. Robot really was a genius. Under that humble attitude, he had a very sharp mind. Leon compared the magnetic field produced by the device to the pulse he had used to disable the aliens. This device's field strength was probably hundreds of millions of times stronger. This wasn't just to avoid accidental injury, it was designed to completely lock down Leon's magnetic ability. My God, Mark said, staring at the humming coil, you keep something this dangerous in your base. The others also looked uneasy. He's a freak, Rex said right in front of Robot. He probably doesn't even care if his own machine blows all of us sky high. Eve nodded. Robot is reliable most of the time, but yeah, sometimes he's missing a pretty important screw. Everyone please relax, Robot said. I've installed strict safety measures, there will be no accident. He turned to Leon. Homelander, please step into the device and attempt to disable me from the inside. Leon nodded and walked toward it. Kate suddenly blocked him. So you built a dam in the ocean just to get back at Homelander? Don't forget, he saved our lives. This is not retaliation, Robot said, and Homelander's life will not be in danger. It is merely a simple, thanks for caring. Leon gently moved Kate aside. I'll be fine. He looked at Robot because Robot made one mistake. Instead of stepping into the device, Leon did something that horrified everyone. He reached out and touched the high-voltage coil directly. Careful, don't touch. Leon, their shouts came too late. Leon grabbed the coil with his bare hand. His expression didn't change, his body didn't shake. He looked completely unaffected. That is impossible, Robot said. Even through the mechanical voice, the shock was obvious. He immediately checked the data. The device was still operating normally, but the magnetic field it produced had been completely neutralized by Leon. The induced electromotive force was nearly zero. The current inside the device had stopped flowing. Robot had spent serious effort and connections building this machine. In front of Leon, it hadn't lasted a single millisecond. How did you do that? My power is magnetic field control, Leon said calmly, releasing the coil, not pulse emission. He looked at the device. Trying to cancel my ability with a reverse magnetic field only gives me more to work with. He said it like none of this mattered. Robot's pride took a hit. God, Rex muttered. I'm starting to believe he really is Captain Cosmos. First light of the Big Bang and all that shit. Rex, Eve said, annoyed, I told you, his real body is just a kid younger than us. How do you know that's his real form? He can turn pitch black, maybe he can turn into a kid too. I said he can't, I can sense. She stopped and rubbed her forehead. You know what, forget it, talking to you is impossible. Leon restored Robot's device and turned to him. You built this? Yes, Robot replied, by hand. Though it appears I'll have to destroy it now. Leave it to me, move it somewhere safer. Leon studied the machine. This device can amplify my power. If those aliens come back, I can use it to strengthen my magnetic field and support you better. No problem, Robot said. I'll disconnect the power and store it. Tell me once you find a suitable location. With that, the matter of Leon's magnetic ability came to a temporary end. Robot steadied himself and looked at Leon and Mark. I've heard the Guardians of the Globe are temporarily unavailable. He continued, Cecil and the GDA have asked us to respond to emergencies as quickly as possible. Invincible Homelander, if trouble comes, can we count on you? Mark lowered his head. His face was full of hesitation and doubt. Leon is strong, he can help, but me, he gave a weak laugh. Are you sure you need my help? Robot had no answer. Leon patted Mark on the shoulder. Don't sell yourself short. When we get back, we'll practice emergency response. You can do this. I can, Mark brightened. He thought about the villain he had handled using Leon's advice and all the praise he had received afterward. Confidence returned. So you're willing? Robot asked again. With Leon backing him up, Mark straightened immediately. Of course. Then he turned to Eve, just text me. He paused. Oh right, you'll need my number, want me to write it down? A guilty, awkward smile appeared on his face. Everyone stared at him in silence. They all knew exactly how he felt about Eve. At that moment, Kate suddenly leaned against Leon. You should leave your contact too. I can track special electromagnetic or thermal signals, Leon said. Robot can sync a signal with me later, no phone needed. Kate looked disappointed. But, Leon added, you did well during the rescue operation. You saved a lot of lives. I'd be happy to give you a private contact. Kate lit up. One of her clones hurried off to get her phone. When Leon added his number, Kate couldn't stop smiling. Everyone there, Mark included, could see she was into him. Seeing Kate hold Leon's arm so intimately, Rex's face tightened with displeasure before he could hide it. Hey, Eve stepped in front of him. What's that look? Me. Ow, what look? Rex quickly changed the subject. Hey babe, how about pizza tonight? After leaving his contact with Kate, Leon left the teen team base with Mark. Tomorrow after school, we'll go train somewhere empty north of the city, Leon said. Mark had been glowing from exchanging numbers with Eve. His face dropped instantly. We just survived a huge fight. Can I breathe for a second? I also need to go home and take care of my dad. Day after tomorrow. Fine, call me when you're free. They went their separate ways. That night, Leon flew to a highly rated fried chicken place in Chicago to buy wings for dinner. The shop was on the city's outer edge, not far from where he and Mark lived. Unlike the quiet suburban neighborhoods, the streets here were lined with low buildings. The roads were cracked, sunken, and leaking water. Gang members owned the alleys. Leon landed quietly and walked to the restaurant. Outside, a long line waited at the pickup window. Inside, the dining area was empty. People would rather stand outside than order inside. Leon found that odd. He stepped in. One original fried chicken plus salt and pepper drumsticks, sweet sauce, no spice. Behind bulletproof glass, a blonde cashier looked up at him. She had tattoos on her hands and sharp eyes. She looked a little like Avril Lavigne if Avril had spent a few years in a knife fight. "Dude, get in line outside." "Why? I can't order here." She rolled her eyes and was about to say something, but her coworkers behind her immediately shut her down with a look. After taking his order and money, the cashier noticed the tip was decent. She lowered her voice. "If you don't want to die, wait outside. Come back when your food's ready." "No thanks, it stinks outside, I'll sit in here. Don't blame me if you get killed." Leon sat down and started scrolling through his phone. Kate had sent him 5 or 6 texts, but he didn't open them yet. He checked the news first. Several Chicago outlets had just posted the mayor's public speech. Leon tapped the video. The more he watched, the deeper his frown became. Downtown Plaza and the surrounding highways will reopen tomorrow. The people of Chicago will prove to the world our unbreakable spirit and our refusal to bow to evil. The video was followed by endless praise pieces. The mayor was hailed as decisive, efficient, and heroic. The articles claimed he had sent rescue teams immediately and restored a ruined district in only 2 days. Leon knew the truth. That had been the GDA, him, and the teen team. The local parasites had sent 1 fire truck. Everything else had been cameras and speeches. His face darkened. He texted Robot. "Leon, did you warn the Chicago government that the aliens could return at any time?" Robot. "As a professional hero team, we usually avoid direct government contact. However, I informed Cecil. Cecil should have notified the local authorities." Robot. "Did something happen?" Leon checked the news. While he was typing, 6 masked robbers rushed into the fried chicken place. Bang, bang, bang. "Everybody, hands where we can see them, empty the register." Behind the bulletproof glass, the blonde cashier flinched for half a second. Then she and her coworkers calmly followed instructions and passed cash through the rotating delivery slot. They moved with practiced ease. This clearly wasn't their first time. Leon finally understood why people preferred the line outside. They didn't want to catch a bullet. He shrugged and kept scrolling. Unless someone's life is threatened, he wasn't planning to interfere with structural crime in a neighborhood like this. That kind of problem couldn't be solved by punching a few people. It would only escalate the conflict and make things worse. Then, as one of the robbers reached for the money, a vine shot out from the sleeve of a robber and wrapped around the cashier's wrist, trapping her hand in the delivery slot. "You thought you were hiding well," he laughed. "This is the society's territory. The society sees everything." The fried chicken employees dropped the act instantly. From hidden compartments beneath the counter, they pulled automatic weapons and opened fire. "Well, damn," Leon muttered. This chicken place wasn't simple either. Good thing he hadn't jumped in. Armor-piercing rounds shattered the reinforced bulletproof glass. Within seconds, only the robber with the vine sleeve was still alive. He gave a wicked grin. While taking the bullets head-on, countless bone blades and fleshy tendrils burst from his body. In an instant, he carved 2 armed employees apart like vegetables. Superhuman, run. The store manager pulled out a grenade launcher and fired. The blast flattened half the restaurant. When the smoke cleared, Leon was sitting on the ground, staring blankly at the shattered remains of the GDA-issued smartphone in his hand. "I came out to buy dinner and still ran into this crap." He stood and walked toward the superpowered man whose body was rapidly rebuilding itself. The man held the last 2 employees in his hands, face twisted with rage. "That hurt. I'm gonna peel your skin off and hang you at the crossroads until you bleed dry." He bared his teeth. A warning to anyone stupid enough to trick the society. Before he could finish, Leon kicked his lower left leg off with pure physical strength. The 2 employees dropped to the floor, clutching their wounds and staring at Leon in shock. He was unharmed. Even his clothes were intact. "Who the hell are you?" The superpowered man snarled as his body regenerated. "Superhero, rival gang, I'm just here to buy dinner." "I don't care who you are. You stuck your nose where it doesn't belong, so you die tonight." Countless tendrils shot toward Leon. He didn't want to reveal his powers, so he stood still and took the attack with his biomagnetic field. The tendrils wrapped around him like a meat grinder. Layers of bone blades scraped against his invisible shield with terrifying force. In less than a minute, Leon felt his biomagnetic field begin to shake. "My defense really isn't great," he muttered. "Probably couldn't even tank a casual hit from Omni-Man." "Forget me, run, Natasha." The manager, whose femoral artery had been cut, saw Leon about to be shredded and shouted at the tattooed cashier trying to patch him up. "Where am I supposed to run?" Natasha snapped. "The society's probably outside too. There's more hardware in the kitchen. We take as many as we can with us. After bandaging the manager, the two grabbed guns and took cover behind an overturned freezer, ready to fight the tendril-covered superhuman. Just as they were about to fire, the flesh-binding Leon was torn apart by raw strength. Leon walked free. Then he calmly and precisely smashed every tendril that came at him. He walked straight up to the superhuman and ripped the man's head off his body. The tendrils collapsed onto the floor. Then they dissolved into blood. The superhuman who had tanked automatic fire and a grenade launcher died in Leon's hands like nothing. Leon shook the blood from his fingers in disgust and walked toward the two stunned employees. They reflexively raised their guns at him. You want to end up like him too? Leon lifted the severed head in his hand. The two lowered their weapons in fear. What do you want? The black manager asked through clenched teeth. Product? Leon looked at him. I want a refund for the fried chicken. He held up what was left of his phone. And you're buying me a new phone. Leon sat outside the wrecked street and waited for his compensation. While waiting, he started thinking through his next moves. First, he needed to keep exploring and strengthening his powers. That couldn't be rushed. He had to wait for Cecil to extend the olive branch first. Leon's powers were strong but dangerous. If he wanted to study them properly, he needed the GDA's resources. That was part of the reason he had wiped out the Flaxons in public and put on that little performance for the cameras. It was meant to earn Cecil's trust, but not just Cecil's. Leon also needed leverage against the GDA. And if he didn't want to become public enemy number one or draw Nolan's hostility too early, that leverage had to come from somewhere other than raw power. Police sirens cut through his thoughts. Several cruisers and ambulances pulled up. Don't move, hands up. You're coming with us to the station. More than a dozen gun barrels aimed straight at Leon. From their bioelectric signals, these cops really did want to empty their magazines into him. Do I look like the guy who caused all this? Leon pointed at himself. He's reaching for a weapon, watch out. Cops in this world really were something. Stop, he's with us. Natasha walked out, supporting the wounded manager. The two had been in the back destroying guns with fingerprints on them. Only then did the police lower their weapons. They taped off the ruins, pushed the crowd back, and sealed the street. A few minutes later, a bulletproof Volvo SUV rolled onto the scene. The door opened. A tall, thin man in glasses stepped out. He looked refined, with graying temples and the calm air of a man in his 50s. Boss, Natasha said, everything has been destroyed, nothing fell into their hands, sorry we couldn't. The man raised a hand, stopping her. Not your fault, logistics failed and leaked your location. Take 2 weeks off, I've transferred extra money to both of your accounts. Then he walked quickly to Leon and handed him a stack of cash and a brand new business phone with both hands. My name is Gustav, I own this restaurant, thank you for protecting my employees. Leon took the items and turned to leave. Gustav spoke quickly. I took the liberty of checking, but I couldn't find your background. I assume you're new to the city. Leon stopped. Chicago can be expensive. If you need money recently, perhaps you'd consider working for me for a while. Name your price. I'm not short on cash. I see, then forgive the disturbance. Gustav lowered his head slightly. My private number is in the phone. If you change your mind, call anytime. He turned and waved. Police cars and suited bodyguards stepped aside, clearing a path for Leon. Respectful tone, British accent, clean execution. Gustav left Leon with a decent first impression. For a boss in Chicago's underworld, that level of quality was rare. Leon had lost his appetite. In his Homelander form, he flew toward Global Daily headquarters. He hovered high above the building and watched the movement below. It wasn't until early the next morning that his target, reporter Lois Kenfield, finally walked out of the station looking exhausted. She didn't have company parking, so her car was on the street. Apparently, the parking meter had malfunctioned because a ticket was tucked under her windshield. Kenfield cursed and kicked a nearby trash can. Leon landed quietly not far from her. Lois Kenfield, who? She quickly stepped away from the toppled trash can, face flushing as she turned. Homelander, this isn't the place to talk. Leon pointed at her car. We'll talk while you drive. They got in. The car started and rolled through streets dimly lit by old lamps. Leon told Kenfield the Flaxons could return at any moment. Her face went pale. But the mayor said there was no more dang. Her voice sharpened. That lying bastard, my aunt still lives downtown. Leon didn't need to explain much. Kenfield knew exactly how dirty politicians could be, so she believed him almost immediately. I've already drawn a lot of attention, Leon said. It's not convenient for me to directly interfere in Earth politics again. He looked at her. Can you convince the mayor to lock down the disaster zone? In his dreams, maybe. Kenfield let out a bitter laugh full of contempt. No offense, but since the mayor already promised the media everything was fine, he can't walk it back, even if I somehow convinced him. Why? Votes. Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Changing his story would damage his tough guy image with voters, so even if another disaster happens, he won't seal downtown. She glanced at him. Call it an Earth specialty. Her answer was exactly what Leon expected. He had asked partly to keep up the Captain Cosmos persona and partly to lead into what came next. I've learned about your democratic system, Leon said. This mayor is clearly unfit. Someone needs to replace him. Kenfield's expression stayed normal, but her grip tightened. Leon noticed. He kept going. Time flows much faster in the Flaxen's dimension. That means every time I repel an invasion, they'll return almost immediately from their perspective. Maybe the day after tomorrow, maybe in a few hours. Kenfield swallowed. The next invasion is very likely to happen at the same location. When I flew here, I already saw traffic moving through the disaster area again. People are moving back into nearby buildings. His voice lowered. No one knows what kind of weapons they'll bring next time. Those people's lives are in danger. He looked straight at her. We need to evacuate and seal downtown, and Chicago needs a new, competent mayor. Kenfield kept squeezing the steering wheel. It took her a while to answer. The station already brought in a new reporter to cover you. At most, I can publish a few pieces on social media and in community channels, maybe organize some protests. She shook her head. But sealing downtown, impeaching the mayor, I'm just a small reporter. Her voice strained. You need someone with more influence, or you need to explain this to the public yourself. I will, Leon said, but I need a spokesperson who understands human media better than I do. That hit her. Kenfield knew exactly what he meant. Her heart pounded so hard she almost felt sick. If I stand in the street shouting, Leon said, or use my powers to force civilians out, this city will see me as an alien threat, no different from the Flaxens. He leaned slightly forward. So I need a voice. Someone ordinary people can accept. Lois Kenfield. His tone softened. Are you willing to speak for me to save your own people? I don't know. Kenfield pulled the car over. She was shaking with emotion. Sweat had soaked through her clothes. This isn't an easy decision. Tying myself to you will change my life. She looked at him. I need time to think. There's no time. The next invasion is close. Leon continued. I'll give you classified evidence related to the incident. You'll publish the video through your social platforms. And I won't ask you to work for free. Besides money, if there's anything you need for your career, I'll help. In the rearview mirror, Leon saw her eyes drifting. She couldn't answer. She didn't want to do it. Leon felt a little disappointed. This is a big matter. I understand if you don't want to. He placed the $2,000 he had just received on the passenger seat. Take this. Payment for reporting my words accurately last time. No refusal. He opened the door and stepped out, ready to fly away. He had risen more than 20 meters when Kenfield shouted from below. Wait, Leon looked down. I'll do it, he landed. The two got back into the car. What changed your mind? Leon asked. Kenfield let out a breath. The faces my coworkers will make tomorrow. She gave a dry smile. Private, ugly stuff, not worth telling. Then she straightened. You said you want to replace the mayor, right? We'll need help from at least two sides. Which two? Kenfield raised two fingers. One, money, a lot of money. Media, newspapers, press conferences, outreach, all of it takes money. Two, I can be your media spokesperson. But beyond that, you'll need a political proxy. Leon nodded slowly. Money, I may have a way. But a proxy, do you have someone in mind? Kenfield smiled. Of course. Her eyes sharpened. And not only do I have one, I have leverage on him, enough to make sure he works with us. Chicago, Manheavy Children's Charity Foundation office. The person we need is here. Kenfield handed Leon several files. This is his basic information. The good stuff isn't in there. Read it first. Leon took the file and skimmed it. The political proxy Kenfield had recommended was named Jordan Manheavy. A narrow-eyed old white man with thinning hair. In his photo, he wore a tired smile full of sadness. That kind of air suited a poet. For an American politician, it might as well have been a sign around his neck that said weak and unlikable. Don't rush. Keep reading, Kenfield said quickly, clearly aware that Jordan didn't look very appealing. Leon continued. Jordan was born in Delaware. He was extremely capable. After graduating from law school, he entered Chicago's city government and quickly rose to become chairman of the Infrastructure Committee. He participated in and led the Chicago 606 Greenway project, which transformed abandoned rail lines into bike lanes, green spaces, and parks. The project was a huge success. Because of it, Jordan became councilman for Chicago's 15th district in 2005 at only 36 years old. The youngest councilman in Chicago history, but the good days didn't last. In 2015, the promising young councilman was hit by a wave of scandals. Under pressure, Jordan resigned as chairman of the Infrastructure Committee. That move destroyed his standing inside the Democratic Party. Eventually, he became a nameless politician pushed to the edge of power. Poor background, strong ability. He's our best choice, Kenfield said, taking the file back. Leon nodded but didn't rush to decide. You meet Mr. Manheavy first. If he's willing to talk in detail, I'll show up. Leave it to me. Leon vanished from the car. Kenfield was already used to it. She tightened her coat, got out, and walked into the Foundation building. The Foundation was a 3-story red brick building converted from an old fire station. As soon as Kenfield entered, she saw an Obama 2008 campaign poster still stuck to the wall. The slogan read, "With the community. Hello, are you here to donate to the Foundation?" The woman at the front desk, who had been scrolling on her phone, quickly called out when she saw someone come in. "Good evening. No, I'm not here to donate." The woman's flattering smile vanished instantly. She looked down and went back to her phone. Anyone would have found that attitude irritating. In the past, Kenfield would already have started arguing. But now she felt oddly calm. Compared to this pathetic receptionist who changed faces depending on money, Kenfield was carrying a great mission. She was trying to save millions. And she had an all-powerful superhero backing her. "I need to see Mr. Jordan Manheavy. It's urgent. A lot of lives may depend on it." The receptionist looked her over. Kenfield's clothes were all cheap brands. Her bangs were wet from the rain and stuck messily to her forehead. No matter how the woman looked at her, she didn't look like anyone important. "Do you know what time it is? What chairman sees people at this hour?" She waved lazily. "Make an appointment. Plenty of people want to see Mr. Manheavy. Can you make an exception?" "Just tell him Lois Kenfield is here." Kenfield's persistence annoyed the receptionist. She put down her phone and held out 5 fingers. "Please show some love for Chicago's children if you really want to see the chairman." Kenfield stared at her. Then she handed over $5 as a tip. The woman took it. Her hand stayed out. Kenfield's face tightened. She handed over a 20. The woman took that too. Her hand was still out. Still not enough. Kenfield gritted her teeth, pulled out one of the $100 bills Leon had given her, and slapped it into the woman's palm. Only then did the receptionist give a satisfied little hum. "Come back in half a month. I'll make you an appointment." Half a month. If Kenfield had heat vision, that woman would have been killed 6 times already. "I only need you to pass along one message. Is that really so hard?" "Sorry, miss, or should I say annoying little reporter," the receptionist smirked. "Either go home and wait, or I call the cops." Kenfield hadn't expected the woman to have recognized her from the start. Everything just now had been a game. The woman had played her like a monkey. Kenfield clenched her fists so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I'm Homelander's media spokesperson now," she told herself. "I can't screw up in public." She shot the laughing receptionist one last glare, swallowed her anger, and walked toward the exit to discuss a new plan with Leon. "What's with that look?" the receptionist muttered. "Bitch. Cheap slut couldn't get a man even with her legs open." That did it. Kenfield stopped, her face flushed with fury. "Homelander, are you there? I need your help." In the blink of an eye, Leon appeared in front of her like a ghost. "Someone is deliberately blocking us," Kenfield said. "I tried being polite, it didn't work. Maybe you can make her listen." I saw what happened. The lights inside the building began to flicker. The lazy receptionist looked up in confusion. A pitch-black figure stood in front of her. Her heart stopped for a second. For one terrifying moment, it almost didn't start again. Fear flooded her body. The feeling of death pressed against her throat. "I am the superhero Homelander. You should have seen me on television or in the news." Leon's voice was calm. "My reporter and I are dealing with a matter of life and death. The safety of millions of Chicago residents may depend on it. We need to see Mr. Jordan Manheavy." "Oh, of course, sir." The receptionist trembled. "Mr. Manheavy is staying inside the Foundation tonight, 3rd floor. Room at the very end." She shakily pulled a key from under the counter and handed it to Leon. "Thank you," Leon said, "but that isn't enough." He gave the key to Kenfield, then held out his hand toward the receptionist. "What? What else do you want?" The woman's voice shook. "Please show some love," Kenfield said coldly, "for the superhero risking his life to save this city." The receptionist understood immediately. Kenfield and Leon were together. If I'd known she had a superhero backing her, why the hell did I mess with her? Regret slammed into her. She cursed herself over and over in her head. Then she quickly shoved all the money she had taken from Kenfield back across the counter. Leon's hand remained open. Still not enough. The lights flickered faster. Sweat poured down the receptionist's face. Fear wrapped around her throat like invisible hands choking the air out of her. To her, Leon and Kenfield no longer looked human. They looked like 2 hungry ghosts staring at her flesh, ready to tear her apart. Cash, wallet, phone. The receptionist handed over everything valuable she had. "Thank you for your kindness," Kenfield said once she felt the revenge had gone far enough. The lights stopped flickering. Everything returned to normal as if the haunting had never happened. Leon vanished. Kenfield walked toward the third floor, her purse now noticeably heavier. Behind her, the receptionist collapsed onto the counter with a thud. A wet stain slowly spread across the desk and floor. Kenfield unlocked the door to Jordan's office. A sharp smell of coffee hit her at once. Behind the desk, Jordan Manheavy looked up from a stack of documents, surprised to see her walk in. Lois Kenfield, he set the papers down. He wore a tailored cashmere coat, expensive and tasteful, but he looked even older and more exhausted than his file photo. Are you here to blackmail me again? He paused. No, someone sent you, didn't they? Kenfield shut the door behind her. How did you know? Karen knows you. She would never let you in this easily. That means you have someone helping you. While pretending to straighten the documents, Jordan quietly reached under the desk for the panic button. If you want something, tell the person behind you to come meet me. Otherwise, we have nothing to discuss. You wanted to see me? Leon stepped out of the shadows. Jordan jerked back in his chair. It took him several seconds to recover. You're Homelander? That's right. What an honor. I can't imagine what I've done to deserve your attention. Honor maybe, terror definitely. Jordan's face looked composed, but under the desk his hand had already pressed the alarm button until it nearly smoked. Stop pressing it, Leon said calmly. I already disabled whatever toy you had under there. You? Jordan stared at him. The disbelief on his face quickly turned into despair. I can't fight a superhero. Take me then. You think we came to arrest you? Kenfield asked, folding her arms. She stood behind Leon, looking at Jordan with a mocking smile. What else would this be? No one wants to arrest you, Kenfield said. Quite the opposite. If you perform well enough, we'll help you become mayor. Under Jordan's stunned gaze, Leon explained everything he had told Kenfield. Jordan reacted almost exactly the same way she had. The aliens could come back at any time, but the mayor said, his face darkened, oh damn it, that old whoremonger, he didn't even tell me. Jordan accepted the truth fast. Then he dropped his head into his hands and leaned over the desk. It made sense that ordinary citizens like Kenfield didn't know. But Jordan was a city councilman from the same party. If even he hadn't been told, that meant something else. Someone wanted to use this chance to remove him. Thank you for telling me, Jordan said at last, but I'm just a charity worker now, I can't help you. He rubbed a small medicine box in his hand and made himself look old and frail. You should go to other council members or take this to the governor. Please, Jordan, Kenfield rolled her eyes, don't act like you don't want to be mayor. Then she started tearing away his cover. 1.8 million, 2.2 million. 2.18 million. Jordan's expression didn't change. Over the past 3 years, your foundation claimed to have helped more than 80 children with rare diseases. Guess what? I checked, not one of them exists. Miss Kenfield, Jordan said calmly, accusations without evidence mean nothing. You're welcome to ask the IRS to investigate me. Kenfield smiled coldly. Then let me give you a little insider update. The IRS recently went through a quiet personnel reshuffle. She leaned forward. Guess where your umbrella is now? A beat, spoiler, federal prison. So that was the leverage Kenfield had mentioned. Councilman Jordan was a full-blown embezzler, and he was very close to getting locked up. If you can't build momentum and become mayor, the next person going to prison will be you. Wait. Leon raised a hand, signaling Kenfield to stop. You brought me an embezzler as a mayoral candidate. Kenfield leaned close to Leon and whispered, he's still one of the cleanest politicians in Chicago, maybe in America. Leon paused. Right, fine, Jordan sighed. The mask of the kindly charity worker fell away. If what Miss Kenfield said is true, then yes, I may be going to prison soon. He looked at Leon. Sorry, but even then I won't work with you. Leon nodded, not surprised. I understand. But you're still a politician, and you still have some reputation in this city. At the very least, you can publish a few articles supporting evacuation and sealing the disaster zone. His voice was mild. Think of it as reducing your sentence and atoning for the embezzlement. I have nothing to atone for. Jordan's voice suddenly hardened. He showed them the empty medicine box in his hand. This is the medicine for my son's spinal muscular atrophy. His fingers shook. Do you know how much one vial costs? He slammed it onto the desk. $2.12 million. His eyes reddened. I spent my entire youth serving this city. I created tens of billions in GDP value. I helped millions live better lives. And look at me now. He spread his hands. This city swept me into a corner like garbage. No one would help my son. His jaw tightened. You should be grateful I only used a charity foundation to take back a small part of the money that should have been mine. I didn't sell underground facility layouts to those superpowered lizard lunatics. I'm not guilty, and I don't need redemption. Kenfield coughed twice. Your son was one of the most infamous rich brats in Chicago, and he's linked to 2 murder cases. Of course, nobody wanted to help him. If he's guilty, let the law judge him, but sickness. Jordan stopped himself. Enough, you can leave. Just as he was about to kick them out, Leon spoke. What if I can cure your son? What? Jordan froze. Impossible. You have no idea how much money I've spent. I searched every hospital and medical university in the world. No one can cure him. That's because you don't have the right clearance. Leon's tone stayed calm. Your country has a hospital built specifically for superheroes like me. Jordan went still. It has medical equipment far beyond anything you can imagine, including advanced alien technology. Leon looked at the medicine box. If ordinary medicine can produce a treatment, then the hospital I'm talking about can probably cure your son directly. Jordan stood frozen. His first reaction was intense doubt, but Leon's calm, almost cold authority made him want to believe. This was an all-powerful superhero. He had no reason to lie. And if Leon truly wanted Jordan to run for mayor and pass policies on his behalf, then they would need a long-term partnership. That wasn't something a simple lie could sustain. Assuming you're telling the truth, Jordan said slowly, staring at Leon, you cure my son first, then I'll step into this mess for you. Maybe, Leon shrugged. I said I only came today to see how you performed, you don't have to be the proxy. He looked at Jordan. How about this? Suppose I chose you as my proxy and cured your son. What can you do to impeach the current mayor and take his place? Jordan's brows drew tight. He began thinking. Soon he gave a plan that sounded surprisingly workable. I would mobilize every political connection I still have. Speeches, marches, public pressure. He tapped the desk. After the second alien invasion, we used that public attention to create a crisis of confidence around Mayor Franklin. At the same time, your reporter friend can do what reporters do. Dig up corruption, backroom deals, uneven benefit distribution inside the party. Jordan looked at Kenfield. As soon as we have evidence combined with a large enough public crisis, the legal impeachment process can begin within a month. Leon nodded. Can it be faster? That is already the fastest legal route. Jordan spread his hands. After that, I would still need support from other party members. That could take 6 months to a year, and we would need a huge amount of political donations. At least dozens of times more than what I've moved through my foundation these past few years. Leon was disappointed. Jordan's explanation shattered his naive idea of quickly building a political force. If it took that long, he might as well focus all his energy on strengthening himself. Once he could punch the earth apart, what was the point of these little political games? Too slow, put this aside for now. Leon turned to leave. Jordan, who had just spotted a lifeline, hurriedly called out. Wait, Leon stopped. If we use special methods 1 month. Jordan's voice tightened. Within 1 month, I can use the alien invasion crisis to impeach the current mayor and take office. Leon looked back. What special methods? Jordan quickly sat down. He licked the tip of his pen and wrote a list of names. Then he handed it to Leon. I won't explain everything. If you can make the people on this list disappear for 1 month, I can become the new mayor. His voice dropped. I swear it on my life and my son's. Leon glanced at the list. Mainly to see how many people Jordan wanted handled. 8 people, 4 politicians, 2 reporters, 2 cooperating witnesses. Not too many. At least it wasn't some absurd plan where Leon had to kill every politician in Chicago so Jordan could win. Leon didn't agree immediately. He handed the list to Kenfield. She looked skeptical at first, clearly thinking Jordan was just desperate and making things up, but after reading the names carefully, her expression changed. This actually might work. Then she frowned. The reporters and witnesses are manageable. But these politicians are important figures in the Democratic and Republican parties. She looked at Leon. You absolutely cannot deal with them directly. Your public image would be destroyed. And don't try to persuade them either. They're in the mayor's pocket. The current mayor's decision definitely had input from these 4. If we show our hand too early, they'll get alert and move against you. Leon looked at the list thoughtfully. This Jordan really was something. In such a short time, he had produced a rough plan that at least looked workable. Kenfield, tomorrow, check whether these politicians have any flight plans soon. Then Leon turned to Jordan. Where is your son now? High above the Pentagon, Leon and Mark slowly descended to the ground. In Mark's arms was a patient with severe muscular atrophy, Thomas J. Manhavy, Jordan Manhavy's son. Please, Mark, Leon said, just tell them you rescued him and he needs urgent treatment. The GDA won't easily open its medical resources to ordinary people. But if you bring the patient in, they seem willing to make exceptions. Yeah, Mark looked embarrassed. I'm probably getting special treatment because of my dad. Then he looked at Leon. But instead of making deals with councilmen, couldn't we just go downtown with the teen team and evacuate people ourselves? Leon shook his head. People aren't stupid, Mark. If they had any other choice, who would move back into a place where so many people died? He looked toward the Pentagon entrance after a long pause. Mark said, even being homeless is better than dying, right? Not always, but the best outcome is simple. Nobody dies and nobody loses their livelihood. Leon pointed at Thomas in Mark's arms. And that can't be done by superheroes alone. It needs politicians. If Councilman Manhavi's son is cured, Manhavi will cooperate with me. He'll propose a motion at City Hall to properly relocate and settle the people downtown, then seal every zone that might be hit by the aliens again. Not only that, in the future on disaster prevention and urban planning, Manhavi will actively listen to our advice and push reforms where needed. Mark stared at him. While he had been sulking over Eve having a boyfriend, Leon had already planned all this and negotiated with a councilman. Wow, you really are way more mature. I told you, I'm a 25-year-old lawyer. But you look, Mark caught himself. Never mind. You're doing something huge, Leon, something good. I'll support you all the way. Mark carried Thomas into the Pentagon. Outside, Jordan Manhavi was waiting for his military vehicle inspection. When he saw Mark fly into the building with his son in his arms, Jordan removed his glasses and wiped hot tears from the corners of his eyes. Chicago Councilman Jordan Manhavi, a soldier said, "What brings you to the Pentagon?" "I wanted to visit General Kench." "He's an old friend." Jordan put his glasses back on, "But something came up at home. I'll be leaving." He turned the wheel and drove back toward Chicago. On the road, he sent Leon a text. After the mayoral impeachment hearing, the party election for acting mayor will begin immediately. You must deal with the 2 cooperating witnesses on the list and Councilman Johnson right away. Johnson is old local power. He controls dirt on every council member and decides who rises and who falls. As long as he remains in place, I can't make my next move. Leon glanced at the message, then calmly looked back at Robot, who sat across from him. Robot had been called to Washington by Cecil for a meeting, and the two had happened to run into each other. "Hello, Homelander," Robot said. "I already told Cecil about what you asked me to mention. He said the Global Defense Agency is a special department established by Congress. It only handles major global superpowered disaster events. It has no authority to command state governments." Robot paused. "Chicago city government is acting improperly, but the GDA can do nothing." As expected, Leon handed Robot his phone. "What is this? Read it." Robot connected to the phone and spent 1 minute reviewing it. Inside were all the messages between Leon Kenfield and Councilman Manhavi. "You want to support Councilman Manhavi for mayor?" Robot looked up. "I don't know if that's wise. Superheroes involving themselves in politics rarely ends well." "I know, that's why I'm supporting someone else." Leon folded his hands on the table and looked at Robot seriously. "You're smarter than I am, Robot, so I won't dance around this. Chicago politics is a pile of garbage. It needs outside force to reshape it. Otherwise, even without aliens, citizens will keep suffering heavy casualties from superpowered criminals and a corrupt local government." Robot was silent. "What do you want me to do? You saw the councilmen on the list. They've all run off to Hawaii and Bali for vacation. You knew that already, didn't you?" "Yes. When you first told me to watch the news, I checked all of them." "There's a flight route map on my phone. Do me a favor." Leon tapped the phone. "When they return to the country, make sure they board flights on those routes. If they take private jets, make sure the jets use those routes." Robot withdrew his hands from the table. His face showed no expression. His voice remained neutral and mechanical. "If you intend to cause an air crash, I should remind you that your heat vision and electromagnetic pulse are highly identifiable. The GDA would eventually trace it back to you." He paused. "I also have principles. I will not assist in murder even if your intentions are good." Leon smiled. He didn't rush to explain. "An air crash, you underestimate me." Robot waited. "If I really wanted to kill someone, why make it so dramatic?" "Have you watched the Final Destination movies? I am a superhuman who can disable any electronic device and control light." Leon leaned back. "If I wanted, I could assassinate almost anyone perfectly, and no one would notice anything strange. Why would I cause something as noisy as a plane crash?" He gestured to the phone. "Look at the route map again." Robot had witnessed Leon's terrifying magnetic field control firsthand. He knew Leon wasn't bluffing. A plane crash was hard to engineer cleanly. There were only so many conditions that could cause one, and planes had plenty of detection systems. Leon could easily be traced, but in daily life, a sudden bathroom fall, a microwave or refrigerator leaking electricity, a loosened gas valve, who could trace that back to Leon? Who would even suspect him? Robot silently reviewed the route map again. After a moment, he understood. "So that's your plan." He paused, "But the international impact would be enormous. Does Cecil know? We're sitting inside the GDA right now," Leon said. "You think he really doesn't?" "If Cecil has just assigned me an important task, I don't want complications." Robot had accepted the logic of Leon's plan but still declined politely. Leon had a rough idea what Cecil had asked him to do. At this point in the timeline, Cecil should be laying the groundwork for a new Guardians of the Globe. Robot's task was probably related to that. Consider it a favor, Leon said. You're smart, you probably know what I've been doing here. He was talking, of course, about his repeated trips into the high-security prison. Visiting Cecilia had already become routine. Robot stayed silent for a while, then he answered. You saved my teammates' lives, I suppose I have little choice but to help. As long as Cecil doesn't stop me before I act, I'll put the politicians on your list onto the flights you requested. That's enough. Leon tapped one name. One more thing, the others can wait until they return on their own, but Councilman Johnson. Can you get him onto a flight to Chicago now? I can try, no guarantee. A NetJet's private charter from Hawaii to Chicago. Councilman Johnson, his wife, and his son were curled up on comfortable leather sofas. His wife was asleep. Johnson himself, bald and bearded, lounged with a glass of whiskey looking drowsy. Only his 12-year-old son was still full of energy, flipping through a superhero magazine. Suddenly, turbulence hit. The boy yelped. Relax, kid, Johnson said, picking up the magazine that had fallen to the floor and handing it back. Just a little turbulence, we're fine. The boy nodded uneasily. After the shaking passed, a flight attendant came over with a nervous expression. She leaned down and whispered, the captain received a warning from Miami Air Route Traffic Control. There are thunderstorms over Chicago. We need to change route and circle near Cuba. We'll be delayed 2 to 3 hours. Please forgive the inconvenience. Johnson frowned. Cuba. Why are we going near Cuba? To hold until the storm passes. Can't we go somewhere else? Sorry, sir, it's the standard route from air traffic control. We can't change it. Weather wasn't something people could control. Johnson nodded irritably. The flight attendant left quickly, relieved. Johnson took another sip of whiskey and prepared to close his eyes. Then his son suddenly stared out the window. Beyond the lightning and storm clouds, a human silhouette was flying beside the plane. Dad, look! Outside the window, Leon waved at the boy. Before Johnson could see him, Leon's eyes began to glow scarlet. The next second, thermal radiation concentrated beneath the plane, creating a powerful thermal updraft. A 12-meter-per-second rising current almost disabled the entire aircraft in an instant. A little too much force. Luckily, after the violent shaking, the still-conscious captain and co-pilot quickly regained control. Leon let out a breath. He vanished completely, bending light around himself, then controlled the hot air currents and guided the plane into an emergency landing in the swamp outside Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. 2 hours later, Cuban immigration officers detained Councilman Johnson as he stumbled from the aircraft, still confused. Let go of me, do you know who I am? A Cuban soldier slammed a rifle butt into him, splitting his head open. Shut up, white pig. Under civil aviation law, you are now officially detained by the Cuban government. High above, Leon watched as Johnson was taken away and nodded in satisfaction. When Johnson's family was loaded into a military vehicle, Leon briefly released his control over the light around him. The only one who looked up was the boy. Mom, look, the Superman who flew next to the plane is here. By the time his mother and the Cuban soldiers looked up, Leon was already gone. Back at his residence in Chicago, Leon took a shower, changed clothes, and finally lifted the suppression on his teleportation bracelet. In the next instant, he was pulled back to the Global Defense Agency. This time, unexpectedly, he wasn't sent to the high-security prison. To Leon's normal human vision, everything around him was pure white, an endless, boundless expanse of nothing but white. It felt suffocating and strangely comforting at the same time. We added a special substance to public water supplies. It prevents ordinary Americans from seeing certain wavelengths of visible light. Cecil appeared out of nowhere. Leon steadied himself, then switched to electromagnetic sensing and thermal vision. Only then did he realize he had been transported into something like a deep missile silo. The temperature was extremely low. Thermal radiation in the area was almost non-existent. Leon pulled out a chair and sat across from Cecil. So, Leon said calmly, you're unhappy with what I've been doing. I'm just curious what you're trying to achieve, Cecil replied, equally calm. You don't belong to this world, and you're definitely not a good person. So why go through all this trouble to interfere with Chicago? Because I want to, because I can, that's all. Cecil let out a short laugh, studying him. Or maybe you're just afraid of Nolan. He leaned forward, locking eyes with Leon. Give me a real answer. No nonsense. Why not kill Nolan right now? Kill me, destroy the Pentagon, take over the world. Leon's face twitched, then he burst out laughing. That's your biggest concern? He leaned back, still smiling. Cecil, the more I use my powers, the more I realize something. I am a god. His tone was calm, certain. As a god, what I need is a beautiful planet, a species that worships me wholeheartedly. Nolan is a challenge, you might be one too. You can be my allies or my enemies. Or I'm just afraid of Nolan. You're not a god, Cecil shot back immediately. You're a failed experiment from some mad scientist. Leon's smile faded, he shrugged. And who exactly can claim they're completely sane, you, Cecil? A brief silence followed. Anyway, Leon said, standing up slightly, if you're not here to stop me, then let me go. I still have things to do. Cecil didn't respond right away. He stared at Leon, then at the table, thinking, then suddenly. Nolan can snap every bone in your body with a flick of his hand. Leon's expression darkened. Cecil continued, your heat radiation, your electromagnetic fields, none of it can hurt him. People have tried, even ancient entities with magic couldn't kill him. Your defense, it's weak. You might be stronger than Mark right now, but against Nolan, you're just one punch. I know, Leon's voice dropped. He understood this was the real conversation. And I know what Omni-Man did, Leon added. Cecil's eyes flickered with surprise. How? I've seen Red Rush and the Immortal. When they move at high speed, they leave behind unique thermal traces in the air. When you carried Omni-Man past me, I sensed those traces all over him. Combine that with the Guardians disappearing and what Mark told me, the truth isn't hard to figure out. Cecil stood up, the artificial light vanished. Around them, countless armed agents appeared, rifles raised. Then Cecil waved a hand, they all stepped back. You're a little crazy, Cecil said, but you're useful. He looked at Leon directly. You don't need the bracelet anymore, it can't restrict you anyway. As for Nolan, keep your mouth shut, don't tell anyone, especially Mark. Next time aliens invade, perform properly. Don't let the kids get hurt. After that, I'll arrange training for you, so you won't be completely helpless when facing Nolan. There it was, the olive branch. Leon had waited for this. All right, Leon nodded, but I'll keep wearing the bracelet. I need something to limit myself. A flash of white, they were back in the Pentagon. Cecil gestured that Leon was free to leave. I've had a dedicated access route set up so you can visit Cecilia, he added, but stop killing my prisoners, they're more useful alive. And one more thing, Cecil's tone hardened slightly. I won't interfere in your political games, that's outside GDA jurisdiction. But remember, we're not the only superhuman authority in the United States. If other agencies catch you, don't expect me to save you. That reminded Leon. There were indeed other organizations beyond the GDA. And unlike the GDA, most of them weren't exactly the good guys. Cecil turned and left. Donald stepped forward quietly. We're still investigating who abducted you, he said in a low voice. If we find anything, we'll inform you. Don't act on your own and alert them. Got it. The flight back to Chicago was long and boring. For Leon, it felt like a different kind of punishment. I seriously need to find a way to increase my speed. Back in Chicago, Leon checked his phone. His inbox was flooded. Messages from Jordan, messages from Kenfield, all saying the same thing, money, a lot of money. Leon rubbed his temples, tired, but this was his own doing. He quickly calculated the amount they needed, then decisively dialed the first number saved in his phone. Beep, 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 beep. 15 seconds later, the call connected. A refined, middle-aged British voice answered. Hello, this is Gustav. How may I assist you, Mr. Kennedy? I need money. $200 million, clean money, now. A pause. Mr. Kennedy, that's not a small. I'm not asking for it for free. Leon cut him off calmly. Give me a target of equal value, I'll handle it, then I'll take the money. Silence, 5 full minutes, then finally Gustav spoke again. Chicago falls under the influence of a superpowered criminal organization known as the Syndicate. We've stayed out of each other's business until recently. They've started overreaching. I want you to go to the Monadnock building and eliminate the knight they've stationed there. Do that and the money is yours. I'll send you a location, meet my contact, she'll brief you. The call ended, a location ping appeared instantly. Leon moved fast. When he arrived, he saw a familiar figure leaning under a street lamp, Natasha. The same girl from the fried chicken shop. She wore a mask and a baseball cap, a guitar case slung over her back. Half of her light blonde hair fell loosely over her shoulder. Ripped jeans, rockstar vibe, hey kid, over here. Leon didn't even bother correcting her anymore. They walked a kilometer away to a quiet cafe, sat outside. Good evening, the waiter said. What would you like, Natasha? Americano, less ice, no sugar. Leon, milk, no water, room temperature, 3 spoons of sugar. The waiter blinked, then left. Natasha smirked. You come to a coffee shop to drink milk, trying to grow taller. Cut the crap, Leon said flatly. Let's talk business. Business? Fine. Natasha didn't hesitate. She pulled the guitar case off her back and set it on the table. She unzipped it just enough for Leon to see inside. His eyes narrowed. A familiar, dangerous presence hit him instantly. Inside the case was a compact nuclear warhead. You go in and make some noise, Natasha said, calm like this was routine. Draw attention, keep them busy. She smirked. I'll drop this into the elevator shaft, send it all the way down, then boom. No, Leon didn't argue, he just took the case from her. Before she could react, his fingers crushed straight through the metal casing. Are you insane? Natasha snapped, jumping to her feet. Even if it doesn't explode, the radiation alone can. I know. His voice didn't change, the exposed core pulsed. Gamma radiation surged out and disappeared, absorbed, all of it. The unstable core collapsed in his hand. The chain reaction died before it even started. The material broke apart into raw elements, uranium, plutonium, tritium, then sank into his body like it never existed. Leon paused for a second. That was new. Natasha just stared at him. You stopped a nuclear chain reaction, she said slowly. That's not possible, that breaks physics. Leon brushed dust off his hands and handed the case back. You're the expert, you tell me. People nearby had already noticed. A guy in sunglasses and a tight polo shirt stepped forward, sizing Leon up. Hey, everything all right here? Natasha didn't miss a beat. He's with me, relax. The guy didn't buy it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You've got powers, right? Bad place to show off. Before Leon could respond, a sharp spike shot out of the man's palm. It stopped cold against Leon's biofield. Leon grabbed him by the shoulder and tossed him aside. The impact was instant. No scream, no second chance, just a wet crash as the man hit the ground and turned into something unrecognizable. For half a second, everything went quiet. Then the screaming started, but not everyone ran. Some pulled guns, others triggered their abilities, they rushed him. Leon grabbed a round glass table, spun it once and threw it. It sliced through them like a blade, bodies split clean, blood sprayed across the floor and walls. Run, he's gamma level, someone yelled. The rest scattered toward the building. Leon didn't chase, he turned back to Natasha. Nice place you picked. She stood there covered in blood and fragments, eyes locked on him. No panic now, just clarity. You don't hesitate, do you? She said. This place, it's one of their regular spots. No cameras. If you keep things quiet, no one notices. She glanced at the bodies. Guess that wasn't your plan. Leon shrugged. Faster this way. I'm coming with you. Just give me a picture. You won't recognize him. Leon looked at her. Why? The syndicate knight Hellfire, she said. Half-demon, uses magic to mess with perception. You can look right at him and still not register his face. She tapped her temple. I can track him, you can't. Leon thought for a moment. No magnetic sensing, no shortcuts, just raw movement. If the target scattered, he might lose him. Fine, Leon said. Stay close, 1 meter. Natasha grinned. She pulled out parts from her bag and quickly assembled a compact firearm, then stepped right next to him. They headed toward the Monadnock building. On the way, Leon glanced at her. You talk like a physics major. MIT dropout, she said. Had a boyfriend in physics. Leon raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect that. You're the strongest thing I've ever seen, she added. Stronger than Omni-Man. Leon asked. Yes, she said without hesitation. Do you even know what you just did? No, you stopped nuclear fission, killed the reaction, neutralized radiation, she exhaled. That's not normal, Leon shrugged. I'm strong, that's enough. She didn't push further, she already knew enough. They reached the building, old structure, heavy presence, connected to underground tunnels that had been used for crime for decades, still in use. A sharp crack split the air. A 12-7 armor-piercing round shot toward them. Leon reacted, but his body lagged just enough, and Natasha was still there. He shoved her aside and took the hit. The bullet tore through his biofield and erased his upper body. Gone, that's it. Someone scoffed from the entrance. An Asian man who looked eerily similar to Kate spat on the ground. What a waste of time. Next to him, a slime-like creature shifted. Watch your mouth, that's Lord Hellfire. The man ignored him and turned to leave, then a low laugh echoed. He froze, turned back, everyone else was gone. Leon stood there, bare-chested, completely intact, like nothing happened, smiling. Paul, Leon said. Didn't expect to see you here. Paul frowned. Do I know you? His body split instantly. Dozens of clones appeared. Leon confirmed it. Kate's brother, same ability, better control, more dangerous. Where are the others? Paul demanded. Teleportation, pocket dimension. Leon tilted his head. Look up. Paul didn't. He attacked. Clones rushed forward, then something fell from the sky. Bodies, crashing down hard enough to crush half the clones instantly. Paul looked up. His face froze. Those weren't objects. They were corpses. Leon had thrown them high into the air and let gravity finish the job, all in less than a second. Leon rolled his shoulders, then clenched his fists. Ready, Paul? His eyes locked onto him. Let's see how high you fly. Leon dropped into a sprinting stance. He didn't need it, not really. For one brief moment, he bent the magnetic field around him, then launched himself across the ground with explosive force. He moved faster than the human brain could even send a signal. To Paul and Natasha, it looked like Leon had split into dozens of copies of himself. How can he NGH? By the time Paul reacted, he and more than 20 of his clones had already been thrown high into the sky. As someone with a duplication power, Paul's greatest advantage was simple. As long as one clone survived, he could keep splitting, keep fighting, keep coming back. Because of that, he had always believed that even if he faced the Guardians of the Globe, he would at least have a way to escape. Today, Leon Kennedy crushed that confidence with pure, overwhelming force. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Paul kept splitting in midair. His clones grabbed each other, locking arms and bodies together, building a human crash cushion. He only needed one of them to hit the ground alive. But when he was less than 200 meters from the ground, Leon casually used the corpse of a metal-skinned thug to smash that human cushion apart. Splat. Every last Paul clone slammed into the building. The scene turned sickening in an instant. Flesh burst across concrete. Severed limbs and chunks of meat scattered everywhere, like hell had opened right on top of the city. "You okay?" Natasha, still dazed after Leon had shoved her aside, finally snapped back to reality. Only then did she realize Leon had somehow carried her into the building like a sack of sand. "So this is what a superpowered fight feels like," Natasha muttered. Leon worried the pressure, blood, and sheer freakshow violence might make her pass out on the spot. Instead, Natasha burst into laughter, her face flushed red as she laughed harder and harder. "Stop losing your mind. Where's Hellfire the syndicate knight if you don't tell me he's going to run?" Right, I'm done laughing, come on, follow me." The first floor had only 2 entrances and exits. Inside, the building looked like an old apartment hotel. Natasha led Leon quickly to an elevator that had been sealed behind iron bars long ago. Leon tore through the metal like it was soft tofu. But behind the doors, the elevator shaft had already been filled solid with concrete. "How?" Natasha's face tightened. "Looks like our intel's outdated." "I can open a path," Leon said, "but it'll take time." Natasha shook her head. "There has to be another way down." At that moment, dense beams of laser fire shot at them from every direction. Leon swept Natasha into his arms. "Cover your eyes and the back of your head, curl up tight." After giving the warning, Leon moved. He weaved through the storm of lasers at insane speed. The beams weren't coming from turrets. They came from strange stones with magic circles carved into their bases. "Magic," Leon muttered. "About time I saw some." These magical constructs weren't electromagnetic, and neither were the lasers they fired. His magnetic field couldn't touch them. But the stones gave off a strange heat signature. Those signals stretched out like strings in a puppeteer's hands, reaching from the underground levels of the building and connecting to each magic circle. "Thanks for the directions." Leon followed the traces of heat while layering them with electromagnetic sensing. A few minutes later, he caught something odd. On the first floor, there was a long, narrow, empty space with no heat signature and no electric current passing through it. In his senses, it was pure black. Anything that strange had to mean trouble. Leon carried Natasha and rushed toward it. He smashed through the hidden wall and found exactly what he expected, an aluminum elevator shaft. The shaft was surrounded by a device similar to a Faraday cage, which blocked his electromagnetic sensing to a certain degree. The elevator had no power. Leon didn't need it powered. He kicked open a gap, held Natasha tight, and jumped down. They dropped about 20 meters. Leon reached out fast, caught the edge of an entrance leading to the underground level, then burst through it like a cannonball. They landed in a hidden basement beneath the building. Inside an old railway tunnel, dozens of shipping containers had been stacked in rows. Ultraviolet lamps shone over large hydroponic fields packed with illegal drug crops. This was the syndicate's territory. Natasha, still awake. Leon's sudden arrival sent shouts rippling through the tunnel. A wall of bullets came screaming toward him. Leon grabbed 2 shipping containers and used them as cover, then patted Natasha, who was curled up in his arms like a frightened kitten. After 2 taps, she groggily opened her eyes. The first thing she did after waking up was kiss him. "Are you insane?" Leon stared at her. "You're so damn cool." Leon put Natasha back on the ground. Under his cover, she scanned the area and confirmed the target's position. "Good. The underground layout hasn't changed much. He's definitely hiding in a nuclear shelter in the west tunnel. Point me at it." Once he had the direction, Leon started throwing shipping containers like pebbles. The containers weighed more than 10 tons each. Every throw crushed groups of armed criminals into paste. It looked like the superpowered members on this side were already dead. The ones outside had been the real threats. What remained were ordinary gunmen. While the others scrambled under the chaos of falling containers, Leon took Natasha and rushed toward the target. "Where do you think you're going?" A superhuman with speed close to Leon's own followed them with a vicious grin. He wasn't faster than Red Rush. If Leon flew, he would leave this guy in the dust. But on the ground, this man was a little faster. With a blade in hand, the speedster lunged at Leon. His attack was dirty, the edge aimed straight for Natasha in Leon's arms. Leon braked hard and dodged, but that gave the enemy an opening. A sonic blast hit him from behind. Pain stabbed through Leon's ears. It felt like someone had driven a steel rod straight into his skull. A sharp groan tore from his throat and his grip on Natasha loosened, weakness rolled through him. Leon understood it instantly, sound was his counter, his powers couldn't defend against sonic attacks. A gamma-level human specimen, the speedster laughed wildly. Let's see anyone say I'm not as good as Red Rush after this. He pulled out a portable hydraulic hammer almost half as tall as a person and swung it at Leon, but Leon raised his head through the pain. His bloodshot eyes locked on the speedster. It hurts, Leon said, voice rough, but compared to what I've been through, this is nothing. Leon lifted both hands and caught the full-force strike. His biofield shattered again. The flesh and bone in both his hands burst apart under the impact. But in the next instant, heat surged from inside him, flooding the wounds and rebuilding them at frightening speed. Leon caught the hammerhead, then he yanked, pushed. The hammer's handle punched straight through the speedster's body before the man could react. Red Rush dodged Omni-Man, Leon said as the man died in front of him. He was a hell of a lot faster than you, Turtle. The speedster died full of rage. At the same time, the sonic attack coming from the shadows suddenly stopped. Leon turned in surprise. Natasha stood there bleeding from her eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Using a precise calculation of the firing angle, she had sent a ricochet round into the superhuman hiding behind nearby cover, the one responsible for the sonic attack. How's that? Natasha said, blood running down her chin. I'm not completely useless, right? Good enough. With the final obstacle cleared, the two finally reached the shelter Natasha had mentioned. The shelter door was made from 30 millimeters of titanium alloy, with layers of mechanisms built into the outside. Leon tested it once and found that raw physical strength alone wouldn't get it open quickly. Behind them, a flood of footsteps echoed closer. They've got reinforcements coming. Natasha wiped the blood from her face, raised her gun, and ducked behind cover. I'll hold them off. You focus on the door. Leon wasn't afraid of reinforcements. Natasha was another story. Through heat vision, he could see that being carried at extreme speed had already damaged her organs and brain more than a little. If another messy fight broke out, this crazy woman would probably die here. Leon thought back to everything that had happened since they met. Back when she didn't even know he had powers, Natasha had still warned him out of basic goodwill. Leon liked her a little. And saving her wasn't hard. Fine, he muttered. I'll show a little more. Red light lit up in his eyes. Heat vision hotter than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit blasted into the titanium alloy door. It took only 3 seconds. The supposedly unbreakable door melted open, leaving a hole big enough for two people to pass through. Natasha stared at the sight in shock. There weren't many superhumans whose eyes could fire crimson heat beams. Is he? Natasha already had a guess. After all, heat vision was far too recognizable. It's open. Once the toxic titanium vapor in the air dispersed, Leon waved for Natasha to follow. The two entered the shelter. Inside, the place branched in every direction, packed with fleeing people. They all had different faces, but they wore the same clothes and identical glasses. Whenever Leon tried to look at them closely, his recognition slipped. Their faces blurred together and they all seemed exactly the same. Magic, obviously. How interesting. Mr. Hellfire had prepared more than 100 decoys inside his hideout. They were scattered all through the shelter. Even if Leon chose to kill every single one of them, it would waste a lot of time. I'll identify him, Natasha said. She climbed onto Leon's back and had him carry her as he ran. The shelter was full of aluminum alloy and lead alloy structures, constantly disrupting Leon's electromagnetic sensing. But the enemy's strategy of scattering fake bodies everywhere and confusing his sight actually let Leon's heat vision shine. By watching the direction the fleeing crowd moved, he quickly mapped out 3 escape routes leading outside. Before anyone could slip away, Leon charged through the shelter like a battering ram. He smashed through walls and cut straight through corridors, letting Natasha identify every target before they could escape. Soon they found the real one among a group of people hiding at the back of a billiards room. It's him, Natasha shouted. The one drinking behind the bar. Leon reacted instantly and drove a fist toward the man. But before the punch landed, the man released his magic on his own. He raised both hands. I surrender. The knight's seat is yours, interdimensional drifter Leon Kennedy. Leon's fist stopped at the tip of his nose, then slowly lowered. Leon studied Hellfire with suspicion, the syndicate's knight. Chicago's crime lord, his true form stood revealed. He wore a brown suit, his skin was dark red and his eyes glowed like rubies. Even with his life hanging by a thread, he carried himself with calm, polished grace. How do you know me? You're quite famous in hell, Hellfire said. Duke Ammon thinks very highly of you. I can see why now. The half-demon stood up, his slick-back hair perfectly in place, and spoke to Leon with gentlemanly poise. Let me live. Allow me to peacefully transfer the knight's seat to you. This city can avoid the bloodbath that would come from a future power struggle. He smiled faintly, and you will inherit the wealth, connections, and assets I've built without losing any of it. Hellfire spread his hands. What do you think of my offer? Hellfire's offer hit Leon right where it mattered. The Syndicate was a global criminal organization made up of superpowered criminals in the world of Invincible, something close to DC's secret society of supervillains. They placed one Syndicate member in every major city, a knight. If the knight stationed in Chicago Hellfire went down, that meant Leon would be dragged into an all-out war with the Syndicate. Those filthy rats weren't a real threat to him, but a few of them could actually fight. Some were strong enough to throw hands with Mark in the later stages of the animated series. If people like that decided to hide in the dark and sabotage him, they could make his life seriously annoying. Leon had no interest in playing cat and mouse with them. Give me a better proposal, Leon said. I'm not going to believe you just because you can talk. Hellfire's lips curved slightly. He picked up the cocktail beside him, wet his throat, and said, In a moment, I'll go to the next room and call an emergency meeting. I'll inform the other Syndicate members that this city belongs to you now. Of course, one phone call won't make the others accept your position. You'll still need to go to the Syndicate in person and meet the other members. As for whether you actually go, that's your business. But once I say those words, it's the same as admitting my own incompetence. After that, even if I want to keep sitting in the knight's seat, I won't be able to hold it. At that moment, armed gang members rushed in from outside. Hellfire raised one hand and signaled for them to stand down. But sir, get out, Hellfire said. Quickly, this isn't someone you can fight. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was gratitude. Even after seeing Leon's terrifying power, these gang members were still willing to fight to protect Hellfire. Their loyalty was impressive. Only after Hellfire himself gave the order did they reluctantly lower their guns and leave the shelter. You can't believe a word he says, Natasha cut in. She glared at Hellfire, her face dark with hatred. This bastard attacked a school. He'll stab you in the back the first chance he gets. You have to kill him. Oh, Leon looked at Hellfire with interest. The half-demon stayed calm. Without any hurry, he said, Miss, I believe you've misunderstood something. In Chicago, large organizations like ours have certain protection rules for public facilities such as schools. After all, police officers, politicians, lawyers, people like that need a safe environment for their children. We don't want our own backyard burning either. If places like that are attacked by a local gang, then trust me, it means every major faction agreed to it beforehand. It would not have been my decision alone. Whoever sat in my chair would have done the same. Bullshit, Natasha snapped. If it were Leon or my employer Gustav, neither of them would cross a line like that. Your employer, Hellfire said, voice thick with disdain. Gustav, he pointed at Natasha and cut straight through her pride. If you truly believe a small-time drug dealer from the Mexican countryside can manage a modern city with millions of people better than I can, he gave her a cold look, then you're too stupid to save. You, Natasha raised her gun at him. Enough, Leon said. Natasha's pistol instantly melted under a pulse of heat radiation. She gasped and quickly threw it to the floor. Leon turned back to Hellfire. You do deserve to die, but if I kill you, Chicago's gangs will fall into civil war. I'm not interested in cleaning up that mess, and I can't kill every ambitious criminal in the city. So I'm postponing your execution. You'll keep sitting in the knight's seat for now, but from this moment on you follow my orders. Disobey, and I'll execute you whenever I want. As you wish, Hellfire said. A crafty glint flashed through his eyes. He thought Leon had come for money and power. And luckily for Hellfire, those were the two things he had in abundance. As long as he satisfied Leon's appetite, he could turn this powerful superhuman into a new backer and strengthen his own position. The profit from that would more than make up for the losses from tonight's conflict. But Hellfire's satisfaction didn't last long. My first order, Leon said, is that from now on this city, Chicago, strictly bans crime, especially drug trafficking. Hellfire's expression stiffened. That will step on a great many interests. Federal lawmakers, the governor, the political families running this city, major corporations, all of them. I don't care. Just do it. If you need me to step in, call me. Hellfire fell silent for a moment, then he spoke to Leon in a tone that sounded almost sincere. I admire your noble purpose. Not many people can possess power like yours and still hold on to their original principles. But I must warn you, this world is not as beautiful as you imagine. Suppose you really can turn this city into paradise. The result and the process will both be brutal. No one will thank you. The media will paint you as a tyrant and a villain. The elites and the middle class will hate you. They'll call you a dictator because you touched their cake. The people at the bottom will quietly accept your help, but they will never speak up for you. On the contrary, because you're different from them, they will be led around by the media and join the mob condemning you. This is a rotten world. It hates saviors most of all. Trust me, I know that from experience. Leon was a little surprised. He hadn't expected this half-demon to speak from such deep experience. I already know all that, Leon said, and I don't care. I'm willing to govern this city right now because I want to. If I change my mind, or if the people here really piss me off, I can wipe this city off the face of the earth whenever I feel like it. Cold sweat touched Hellfire's skin. Because he was certain Leon meant every word. I understand, Hellfire said. I'll issue the ban immediately. Good, and remember this, I've locked onto your real body now. Your magic tricks won't work on me again. Leon's eyes stayed cold. If I want you dead, there won't be a place for you anywhere on Earth. Hellfire nodded wisely. You're someone favored by a demon lord of the hell dimension. I'm not stupid enough to burn this relationship to the ground. The two quickly reached an agreement. Hellfire would continue managing Chicago's underground forces, but from now on he could not conduct business locally. He could only reach into other places. You do understand that even while following the law completely, we still have plenty of ways to sell drugs, correct? Hellfire asked. As long as the methods are legal, I won't oppose them, good or bad. The law was the expression of order in modern human civilization. It was the result of society's current state and the constant struggle between different powers. If someone failed to see the real social conflicts behind the law and rushed to break it in the name of heroism, the damage would outweigh the good. It was like Batman catching every supervillain he could, only for Gotham to become more chaotic year after year. Leon had seen all kinds of cases, large and small. He understood this principle well. In the future, he would work with Jordan to push medical reform in Chicago, close the loopholes that allowed drugs to move through the healthcare system, and find and solve the social problems underneath it all. But right now, he had to tolerate certain people profiting from that loophole. I like that you, Hellfire said. I believe the two of us can get along well in the future. He lifted his glass slightly. Drink? No, they negotiated for an hour. Hellfire agreed to transfer 2 subsidiaries to Leon. The corporate accounts held $500 million in legal, immediately usable funds. If that wasn't enough, more money could be transferred from the parent company at any time. Leon would need to personally visit the city business office and tax department to handle the registrations. Hellfire would assign a lawyer to assist him. That same person would also serve as the bridge between Hellfire and Leon. At the same time, Hellfire had ways to make the 2 tainted witnesses and the reporter on Jordan's list disappear from the world for a month without spilling blood. Take this. Hellfire removed the ring from his thumb and handed it to Leon. I'll make sure the key people inside the gangs know enough about you. If you run into minor trouble in this city that you'd rather not handle personally, or if you want certain special treatment, just show them this ring. 80% of the local businesses in this city are under our control. Leon took the ring. Hellfire then sent someone to escort Leon and Natasha back to the surface. On the way, Natasha's face stayed tight with anger, but she knew she had no weight here, so she said nothing. After leaving the Monadnock building, the two went their separate ways. Before Natasha could walk away, Leon called after her. I have some goodwill toward you and your employer. You can keep running fried chicken restaurants here, logistics warehouses too if you want. But don't think about selling drugs again. His voice stayed calm. I don't want to snap your throat with my own hands. Hypocrite, Natasha said. You and that demon are the same kind of monster. She left those words behind and stormed off. After she was gone, Leon toyed with the ring on his hand. A massive ruby sat embedded in it, bright as blood. It's time to prepare for the Flaxen invasion. Leon blocked the electronic devices around him, shifted into his black Homelander form, and flew toward the bridge where the teen team was waiting. Back at the teen team base, only Robot remained, busy maintaining the equipment. Everyone else was gone. Robot, send a message to the others, Mark included. Tell them to gather at 7 tonight at the site of the last invasion. I want to run some drills. Understood. Robot nodded. It adjusted the repair tool in its hand and asked, one of my drones detected a large-scale attack near the Monadnock building just now. May I ask if you caused it? Yeah, I went to introduce myself to the syndicate. Robot immediately put down the tool. Even through a metal shell, its tension was obvious. You killed Hellfire, the syndicate's knight? Relax, I killed a lot of his small fry, but I didn't touch him. Leon's tone stayed casual. Killing him means war with the syndicate. With an alien invasion coming, that would only make things worse. I'm not stupid. Robot finally eased up. It turned back and crouched down to continue repairing the equipment. My apologies, I underestimated your judgment. I've already notified the others, everyone will attend. Rexplode may be 1 or 2 hours late. Good. That magnetic field device you built before, can you set it up at the invasion site? Yes, but generating a stable 8 Tesla magnetic field requires more than 1 million watts of electrical power, along with a matching superconducting environment. Robot kept working as it explained. I built a small hydroelectric station beneath the bridge and stored electricity for a long period of time. That was the only reason the device could operate for a few minutes. If we move it somewhere else without that energy supply, the device won't activate. Can't we move the batteries with it? Those batteries only provide compensating electromotive force. They are not the actual power source. Leon fell silent for a moment, then he pointed at himself. Use me as the battery. What? Robot looked at him in surprise. My body contains a massive amount of energy. I can supply the device. But we're talking about 1 million watts of power. Can you truly provide that? Robot's voice carried concern. The Flaxen invasion is imminent. You must not risk injury. We can run the test after this is over. I can do it. Leon let the power inside his body flow into both hands. Deadly electromagnetic waves of different kinds stirred beneath his skin, locked firmly inside him. Absorption or release. Either one depended on a single thought. The laws of physics had become a joke when applied to him. After having his body destroyed and rebuilt several times, Leon had grown more and more aware of the terrifying energy sleeping inside him. What the hell are my powers, really? He still didn't know the answer. But 1 million watts, Leon was certain he could handle that. That's nothing to me. Robot hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Very well, I'll do my best to finish the modifications before the drill begins. Leon left the team base and returned to his place. When he landed, he was surprised to find a towering red-skinned woman standing outside his front door. She stood close to 3 meters tall, bigger than Shaquille O'Neal by a full size. 2 twisted, uneven horns grew from her head. Her powerful limbs carried no excess fat at all, and her expensive black evening gown had high slits that left them exposed. She radiated the pressure of a demon queen. The strange part was that the neighbors passing by didn't seem to notice someone who looked practically alien. I used a cognition blocking spell. Ordinary people can't perceive my presence. The woman turned calmly toward Leon. Hello, Mr. Kennedy. My name is Dusk. I'm Hellfire's half-sister, daughter of Hell Princess Steroth. I'm proficient in the laws of every country on Earth. Starting today, I'll serve as the bridge of communication between you and my brother. Leon caught a unique perfume on her. Incense, stone, blackcurrant, sulfur. The sulfur was a little sharp but not unpleasant. It gave the scent a clear identity. You're also a half-demon. That's right. Though my other bloodline is not from Earth. Dusk looked down at him. Do you have a problem with my race? Not at all. I'm more than happy to have an exotic beauty around. Leon glanced at her size. But with all due respect, you're too big for most human spaces. My house, for example. Dusk brushed back her long, slightly curled hair which fell like a waterfall. With lazy arrogance she said, I can shrink my body, but why should I? Then she held out her hand. Come, let's discuss the companies. The huge half-demon offered Leon her hand. The moment their hands touched, flames wrapped around them. Leon blinked. When his eyes opened again, he was in a dim, comfortable salon. Dark red velvet carpet covered the floor. Sofas, pillows, and a massive soft bed in the same color sat everywhere. Almost every object in the room was 2/3 his size. So I've been brought into a demon's bedroom. Dusk leaned back against a sofa. Her loose evening gown slipped down onto the floor, revealing far more than most people would dare show. These documents need your signature. She lifted several files. Your identity was arranged by some superhuman department, wasn't it? No credit card history at all. The IRS will notice your identity soon. That will create trouble. Can you handle it? Of course. Dusk straightened with confidence. The movement made her chest shake hard. But there is one small piece of bad news. A city councilman with close ties to the syndicate has been detained overseas and can't return for the moment. It may take about another week to smooth things over for you. Councilman Johnson? Yes. Dusk gave Leon a slightly surprised look. You investigated him. Leon shrugged. This is the first I'm hearing about his connection to you people. I'm the one who sent his whole family to Cuba. I know another councilman. We're closely connected. He may be able to solve this faster for me. The way Dusk looked at Leon shifted. There were plenty of men with great superpowers, but a man with great superpowers who could lower himself enough to build political influence, that was rare across dimensions. Dusk sat up and adjusted her clothing. Then she explained the follow-up details regarding the companies Leon would control. There were 2 companies. One was real estate. The other was a private gas station business with retail and car wash operations attached. Leon would enter as the majority shareholder. The legal representative and second largest shareholder would both be Hellfire's people. If anything happened in daily business operations, Hellfire's people would handle it. Leon only needed to sit back and collect dividends. Dusk handed him a black card edged in gold. This black card has a limit of 500 million, take it. The pin has been sent to your phone. Spend freely on daily expenses. But if you plan to use it for political operations or to purchase restricted items, remember to tell me in advance. The bank needs time to prepare the records. Leon took the gilded black card. Printed on its surface was a savage claw burning in deep crimson flames. Then you'd better start recording now. I'm giving this money to a councilman. Councilman Jordan? Yes, how do you know? He's been giving speeches downtown since this morning, calling on citizens to cooperate with the people from his charity foundation and prepare for evacuation drills. Dusk smiled faintly. A lot of people suspect he wants to use this crisis to return to the center of politics. That news made Leon feel strangely pleased. His arrangements were finally starting to bear fruit. If this money is going into politics, then there will be many more issues to consider, Dusk said, including whether you're willing to let your identity be traced. They discussed it for several hours. In the end, they decided to donate the money anonymously to Jordan's charitable foundation under the identity of a well-known wealthy donor. Since neither Leon nor Dusk trusted the quality of Jordan's foundation staff, Dusk would send reliable financial and legal personnel to replace members of the foundation. She would personally manage the process and report to Leon at any time. Once they settled on the plan, Leon immediately called Jordan. Man-heavy speaking. Jordan's voice sounded hoarse but energetic. It's me, Homelander. Leon explained everything he and Dusk had just discussed. They've been with me for decades, Jordan said. Old employees from the beginning, I can't just abandon them. Leon looked at Dusk. She gestured for him to hand her the phone. Next, Dusk and Jordan began negotiating the restructuring of the foundation. Dusk's people would handle internal management departments such as finance and legal affairs. Jordan's staff would be moved into a newly established external campaign office. The councilman seemed to know something about Dusk. His attitude toward the half-demon lawyer was extremely respectful, as if he was afraid of upsetting her. You found yourself a pretty good puppet. After hanging up, Dusk handed the phone back to Leon. She picked up a bunch of grapes from the fruit bowl on the table. Then she extended a bright red tongue like a snake's and wrapped it around the whole bunch, swallowing it in one bite. She licked the juice as it ran down into the valley of her chest, then gave Leon a seductive look. Watching you slaughter my brother's men made my blood run hot. I'd be very happy to build a closer partnership with a warrior like you. She leaned in slightly. Why not stay here tonight? Food, wine, anything you want, I can bring it to you. Next time. I've got something to do. Leon pulled out his phone and checked the time, 3 minutes until 7. Are you sure you won't reconsider? Dusk lowered her body and softened her voice. Leon suddenly felt his head grow a little light. His brows drew together. When he spoke again, his voice had gone cold. You used magic on me. I was starting to like you. Don't make me hurt you. Only then did Dusk look away, clearly disappointed. Even Gamma-class charm magic doesn't work on him. Her trick had been exposed. On the surface, Dusk remained calm, but inside, fear stirred. Her evaluation of Leon rose another level. Where are you going? I'll teleport you there. She glanced over him. Do you need me to send you some clothes? No, I'm running experiments next. Clothes would just be a waste. Dusk took out a tablet and handed it to Leon. A map of Chicago appeared on the screen. After Leon selected the teleportation point, the demon woman summoned a ring of fire. The two of them arrived in downtown Chicago in an instant. Leon, the team members and Mark were waiting not far away in casual clothes. When they saw Leon arrive with a sexy, seductive demon woman in a burst of fire, everyone stared with their mouths open. Except Robot. Robot didn't have a mouth. When you miss me, just call my name. Dusk wrapped one arm around Leon in a suggestive hug. I'm always available. Then she vanished in another burst of flame. Thanks for waiting, everyone. Leon walked toward the group. He swept his gaze over them and found that everyone had arrived. Even Rex Splode hadn't skipped out. Judging by the look on his face, Adam Eve had probably dragged him here. Holy shit! A long moment after Dusk disappeared, Rex finally recovered from his trance. So big. Adam Eve immediately glared at him. What was so big? Obviously her tits. No, babe, listen, let me explain. While the two started arguing, Mark came closer with curiosity all over his face. That beautiful red-skinned lady from just now, Mark asked. Is she your new girlfriend? Did you go to hell? Leon stared at him for a second. Then he explained, slightly speechless. No, she's more like one of my subordinates, a half-demon. Whoa, subordinate. Mark scratched the back of his head and laughed. I don't know. That somehow sounds even wilder than girlfriend. Do American teenagers only think about sex? Leon clapped his hands. All right, that's enough gossip, we're getting to work. Everyone stopped messing around and turned to look at him. Leon looked over the group. I'm going to assign everyone's roles for the next Flaxen invasion. Downtown Chicago, the group stood around the city map projected by Robot, listening as Leon explained the situation. There are no shelters in this city built specifically for superpowered crises. The few locations that can barely serve as shelters are the subway entrances marked here, along with underground parking lots beneath office buildings. But Chicago's bedrock is shallow. Those facilities carry a serious collapse risk. Leon tapped the map. Our best option is to guide civilians toward the suburbs. Usually, when the others heard things like this on the news, it didn't hit that hard. But standing here in person, looking at the map while Leon explained it, they finally understood how bad the situation was. They looked around, dense sidewalks, green belts, circular roads, almost no cover. Against alien invaders carrying laser weapons, civilians would die no matter which way they ran. Standing still was also death. The high-rises weren't safe and plenty of basements could collapse. The most hopeless part was that even if someone survived the first wave, they still had nowhere to go. The few places that could barely count as shelters could hold, at most, 400 or 500 people. In a downtown area packed with tens of thousands, that was nothing. Anyone who escaped would be forced to wander clogged streets or hide inside unsafe buildings and wait to die. My God, Mark said quietly, frowning. The city government, they did nothing. During the first alien invasion, Mark had arrived even earlier than Teen Team. He had seen civilians slaughtered in the streets by Flaxens with his own eyes. Now, standing in the same place again, the buildings and roads had been repaired, but no defensive measures had been added. If everything from last time repeated, Mark was almost certain the casualties wouldn't drop at all. Didn't they learn anything? Mark clenched his fists without realizing it. Do they not care if people die? Realizing how serious the problem was, Eve turned to Robot. Didn't you tell Chicago's government that the aliens might come back? We are a professional hero team, Robot said. It is not convenient for us to contact the local government directly. Come on, Robot, Rex said loudly. We're talking about an entire city's lives here. Is there a screw loose in that tin head of yours? Robot did his duty, Leon said, cutting in. He informed Cecil. Cecil passed the message to the city government. I also condemn the government's inaction publicly in my own name. I'm sure all of you saw it on the news. Then, Mark raised his hand uneasily, then why didn't they change anything? I wouldn't say they changed nothing. Leon pointed at the foundation vans nearby. Employees from the Manhavi Charity Foundation were going door to door handing out evacuation manuals. It didn't look smooth. Police kept coming over to harass them, checking all kinds of documents. Arguments broke out again and again. Thanks to your help, Councilman Jordan is now working with me. His people are trying to spread evacuation knowledge and push the city into organizing civilian escape drills. Leon's gaze returned to the map, but other than that, all I can say is this city's government is extremely incompetent. Mark lowered his head, his chest tight. As a kid who hadn't fully stepped out of the ivory tower yet, he still carried a somewhat blind patriotic. Teen Team, on the other hand, all looked like they had known this for years. Robot aside, Kate and Rex had been adopted and purchased by the federal government as children. They had suffered cruel, brutal training. Eve's past was even darker. A government department had once hunted her down, and she had even lost someone close to her because of it. Leon's merciless criticism of government landed close to home for all of them. But government incompetence is not a reason for superheroes to stand aside. Leon shifted the topic and began assigning everyone's roles. I'll act as the first line of defense and try to kill the attack at the source. Mark, Eve, you'll be the second line. Use your flight advantage to intercept any enemies that break through me. Kate, Rex, Robot, the three of you will form the third line. Your main job is evacuating civilians and handling any isolated Flaxens. Before Leon could continue, Rex interrupted him loudly. Whoa, 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 you want me, a grown-ass man, to stay in the back and take care of old people and kids? He spread his hands. No offense to His Highness Captain Cosmos, but you're not exactly Teen Team's leader. If those aliens age fast, then we all rush in together and kick them back through the portal. Done. As much as I hate saying this, I'm with Rex, Eve said. When we were out fighting bad guys, you probably didn't even have powers yet. We know how to do our jobs, you don't get to order us around. Are you serious right now? Kate and her duplicate stepped to Leon's side. If Homelander hadn't been there last time, we'd all be dead. He's also the one who wiped the aliens out in the end. We barely had anything to do with it. If anyone here has the right to command the others, it's him. Kate. Eve glared at her. You'd rather side with a liar than trust the teammates who fight beside you. Eve, Rex, listen to me, Robot said. Homelander and I discussed this. Given that time moves several times faster on their side, the Flaxons have had anywhere from 10 years to a century to prepare for their next invasion. They will certainly bring stronger weapons and more targeted equipment. We must work together and use a systematic strategy to prepare for the worst-case scenario. If we keep fighting alone like last time, the result will be disastrous. Shit, Rex scratched his head, a little unnerved. A whole century. Near the end of the last fight, he had been running for his life and nearly died. When he imagined the enemy spending a century preparing for the next invasion, his confidence drained fast. Fine, staying in the back sounds pretty good too. But don't expect me to change diapers. Rex, Eve turned her angry glare on him. What? Rex looked at her innocently. You're supposed to support your girlfriend. Eve, people's lives are on the line. Is this really the time to bring personal stuff into it? Eve's face went red with anger. She had just been criticized in public by Rex, the least reliable person on the team. You're such an asshole. After throwing that at him, she turned and flew away. Babe, hey, Rex watched helplessly as Eve left. Mark immediately followed her. You guys keep talking, I'll bring Eve back as soon as I can. He shouted the line and quickly disappeared into the clouds. Leon stared speechlessly at the two flying figures, especially Mark. Mark's little crush was obvious to everyone. No one present had missed the fact that he liked Eve. Not even Rex, Eve's current boyfriend. Watching the two of them fly off while he could only stand in place, Rex folded his arms over his chest. Anxiety and frustration filled his face. If I were an unarmed civilian and had to rely on a hero team like this to save me, I'd bury myself early. Leon clapped his hands to draw the remaining three people's attention. I'll talk to those two separately later. He turned to Kate. Kate, you're the core of the third line of defense. You need to place your duplicates in advance at the key entrances and exits marked on the map. In addition to helping the police and Foundation staff evacuate civilians, you're responsible for reporting each area's disaster status and the movement of evacuation crowds to Robot at all times. Got it. Let me see the map. Kate nodded, took a tablet from Robot, and started studying it carefully. Rex, you'll be responsible for creating cover, cutting off routes, and dealing with unstable buildings that may collapse. What? Rex pointed at himself. I make things explode. That doesn't mean I know demolition. That's pure stereotyping. Robot handed him a pair of specially made goggles. I will mark the locations that require controlled demolition, Robot said. You only need to place explosives with the corresponding yield. As it spoke, Robot demonstrated Rex's job in the projection. Rex watched a tiny figure representing him move through a crumbling high-rise, causing several targeted explosions. Then the entire building collapsed straight down without affecting any surrounding roads or structures. His jaw dropped. Holy shit, I can do that. You can. Blowing up buildings is awesome. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Robot, Leon, how did that saying go again? Simple kids have the most fun. Robot. Leon turned to the final team member present. Once the battle starts, command is yours. I will accept such an important responsibility. Good. Leon looked back at Kate and Rex. Kate, go familiarize yourself with the streets. Robot, take Rex inside a few high-risk buildings and let him see the structures. Everyone move.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.